time for Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. For the next 3 hours, it's high school basketball from across the Mountain State. Live from Marshall University, here's your host, Ryan Epling.
With you here tonight, here on the Fast Break Sports Network, another Basketball Friday Night is upon us here in the second week of February, the day before Valentine's Day. That's when things really do start to get serious on the basketball floor. Again, I'm Ryan Epling. Rick Marone back with us in studio tonight. James Collier is in Greenville, North Carolina this weekend, where it's still cold. But we'll definitely talk with him a little bit later on as well. And Coach, first, good to have you back. It's been a couple of weeks, and glad to have you back on the program.
Well, I'll tell you what, good to be back in the studio, Ryan. Appreciate y'all leaving the breadcrumbs for me, and found my way back off the long and winding roads of West Virginia. It's been a good couple of weeks, but being away from the home studio, so to speak, makes you want to get back and talk hoops, and we'll get a chance to do a lot of that tonight.
Yeah, a lot of ball games going on. Of course, we're having a little technical issue right now that we're working on. We're going to work on that. Coach, just tell me about tonight, what this time of year from a coach's standpoint means for your team, where you're trying to get them at this point in the year.
Well, I tell you what, Ryan, girls sectional play, believe it or not, a week from Monday starts girls sectional play. So the girls are winding down. They're into the last week of the season, trying to get things really kind of fine-tuned. I think most of the work is done by this point, and for the boys, they've got 2 weeks, and then they're in the sectional play. So I think teams that have maybe had a successful year are just trying to fine-tune and trying to work to continue the things that have been successful for them. But those teams that are struggling, sometimes they may try and make a late push and work on some things to get ready for tournament. And one of the worst mistakes you can make around when you get ready for tournament is to try and do things that you're really not in character doing. And I think that can get teams into trouble.
Of course, this time of year is always an important one for players as well. And right now we're 0 for 2 on microphones. We got to get this fixed right now. Your mic's fine, and but definitely this is something we'll need to work on. So I'll tell you what. Right now we're just going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back in 2 minutes. We'll get everything sorted up, and we'll also work on getting you a scoreboard update here in just a few moments as well. We appreciate you sticking with us here on the Fast Break Sports Network. Again, we're having a little bit of a technical issue, but our crack staff in the back always working hard, always team players that are helping us to get it all worked out. So we'll be back with more Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia in 2 minutes here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Special thanks tonight to all of our affiliates listening in on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State, including Power 92 Radio, 92.3 FM, WYRCLP in Spencer. Also 91.5 FM, WRSG in Middleburn. 106.7 FM, WHFI in Linside. 101.9 FM and 1290 AM, WVOW in Logan, 90.7 FM, WFGH Fort Gay, 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM, WQAZLP Edmond, Beckley, 101.7 FM, WYAPLP Clay, 88.1 FM, WMUL in Huntington. Cable subscribers can find Basketball Friday Night in Huntington on Comcast Channel 25 and Armstrong Digital Channel 204. Streaming online high-definition video can also be found on our website, basketballnight.com, and on affiliate rsnsports.com. Listen online with any computer or mobile device by going to basketballnight.com. We want you to become part of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll make sure to mention your name tonight at @hoops_roundup. At @hoops_roundup. Tweet us with your team's scores and give us your comments on the game at @hoops_roundup. At @hoops_roundup. Big shout out to all our affiliates and everyone sending us scores tonight. We really appreciate that. You are listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Celebrating high school basketball around the Mountain State, you're listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, James Collier, Coach Rick Marone, and Ryan Epling.
And we're back here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. No, a technical difficulty could not hold us down. It just delayed us a little bit. And our resident referee, Bo Anderson, I'm sure would try to give us a technical foul for whatever reason. But we're back. We'll make it just fine. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get going, but we'll definitely take care of it. Again, we want to welcome you to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. And Bill Cornwell will join us a little bit later on. He's at the Spring Valley game tonight, and he'll come here to the studio in Huntington, make the trip out of the west end of Huntington up to the Marshall University campus where we are here tonight as soon as he can. And Coach Marone, we'll get a full scoreboard in just a few moments, but some great matchups again tonight. It seems like we say that every week, but again, it's true. You had Tug Valley and Greater Beckley Christian in a rematch tonight down at the Raleigh County Armory. It came down to the wire. Hurricane and Huntington, they played for the Class AAA title a year ago. They went down to the wire tonight in Hurricane. And definitely some games that we may see again in a couple of weeks with a lot more on the line.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan, that Tug Valley Greater Beckley Christian game was a classic in Naugatuck. They changed the stage that it takes place on, but they go to Beckley and put on another classic tonight. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show, but those are definitely some matchups I think that are worthy of postseason attention, and it would not surprise me if you see those teams button heads again when they get into the playoffs.
Also, some girls' games. I can tell you right now, a top 10 AA team fell tonight in action to an unranked team. Also, we were just talking about tonight already. We're just kind of just little jabs here and there about what we've got to bring you throughout the course of the program. But what a week it's been. It's been a strange week in many aspects, because Wednesday in the same day, and I talked with some people online that you know we follow basketball. We just kind of discussed what happened in a day in particular. You never know what you're going to have on a given day. Both Wyoming County teams lose on the same day in Charleston and are beaten by double figures, again, in the same day. That doesn't happen very often. Meanwhile, a state record is set in a girls' game by a player on a team that hasn't won a game. I mean, you never know what you're going to see when you go into the gym on any given night.
Well, I'll tell you what, only in high school basketball can you see those kind of things. And Ryan, there were some very big surprises and really some amazing performances, as you mentioned. We'll get into that a little more in depth, but the record that was set by that young lady on the winless team is really mind-boggling when you think about it. And when you look at the stats that she accomplished, and we'll get into that a little deeper as we mentioned later in the program, it just goes to show you that, as they say, that's why they play the game.
And it's definitely something that we all look forward to. And, again, Bill Cornwell's on his way up from being at the Spring Valley boys game tonight. Also, as I mentioned, James Collier with the Marshall softball team. He's down at East Carolina. They're in a tournament there. So he will join us from Greenville, North Carolina, perhaps a little bit later on in the program. I look forward to hearing from him tonight as well. But, Coach, again, before we get too far into tonight, tough game for you last night. And
You
again,
had to bring it up, didn't you?
See, I hate doing that to you because, again, we enjoy you coming on the program. Unfortunately, that opens you up to some awkward situations sometimes. But still, a game that proves how open that section is in Region 4, Section 2 in girls basketball. Wayne beats your Lady Rebels 42-40 in a come-from-behind win.
Yeah, it was an exciting game, and obviously we would have rather had another outcome. But, it was round 2. We'd went at it earlier in the year at our home gym, and it was a great game. We got off to a great start this time, and really I felt like controlled the game, had opportunities in the first half to maybe stretch the lead out and maybe distance ourselves. We were unable to do that. Wayne come back late in the game. We actually had the lead in the ball, had a turnover. They tied it up, and then we had a shot blocked inside the last 10 seconds, and they turned into a transition break for them. It was a great game, but as you mentioned, the parity in our section, which is Region 4, Section 2, Ryan, it's almost like the seating are out. I was going to talk about that later in the show, but the girls' seatings are out. They will be in by noon on Tuesday. But just for instance, in our section, the team, you look at head-to-head is what a lot of teams look at. Well, Wayne has now beaten us twice. We swept Scott this year, pretty good games there. Well, Scott swept Wayne, so it's almost like, and then also Mingo Central's in our section and Chapmanville. Chapmanville's really been the team that's separated themselves. They're 10-1 in the conference. They got a couple of games left, and they're undefeated in sectional play.
And really, now this is a situation where a lot of times the thought of a strong section or a competitive section is, well, they've got the best teams. Sometimes it can be that every game in that section is highly, highly competitive. And that's exactly what I think you're going to get into. It'll just depend on who's playing best at the time.
Well, I'll tell you what, in our section, there's 5 teams, and there's 5 in the other half of Region 4. And, of course, 2 teams advance out of the sectionals into those regional co-finals. And in our half, Chapmanville has them. They've won a lot of close games. They beat us by 2 points, 4 points. Wayne had an opportunity to beat them. They have done what they had to do. But I think our sectional tournament, which starts the 23rd at the Williamson Fieldhouse, is going to be exciting. It could go any way between those 5. I really feel that way. The other half of ours has Sissonville, Clay County. You got Hoover in there. You've got Polka, and you've got Nicholas County in there. And I feel like, Clay County, who went into Sissonville earlier this year, we talked about that on the program, and got a 20-point win at Sissonville, probably has separated herself in Region 4 and could get the top seed. And, Ryan, what a lot of people don't know, the formats for these sectionals has a little bit of leeway. For instance, in that half of the section, the higher seed gets to host the sectional game. So if Clay County comes out of that seeding with a number 1, if they take care of business, somebody's going to have to go into Clay and beat them on their home court in order to win that sectional title.
And that's been a very good basketball team this year, as you mentioned. One that's kind of stayed under the radar. They lost to Summers County early on, but still, that's a very, very good Clay County girls team. Again, they won at Sissonville by 21 earlier this year as well. And again, we're working on some things here tonight. We're right in the midst of getting our scoreboard updated. We'll get you a scoreboard update coming up in a little bit, but I want to go to Dave Morrison right now at ESPN Radio in Hinton and on the ticket. And Dave, I know a lot of good basketball to talk about in your neck of the woods tonight, but a lot of interesting things happened over the course of the past week down there as well.
Well, yeah, they really did. I know you guys had talked about already the 2 Wyoming County schools going to Charleston. Anytime a Wyoming, it's kind of rare for them to lose outside of their home, the Armory and Beckley, and, usually they have pretty good success in Charleston, both losing down there. I was really surprised by the West Side score against Ripley. Lose by 19. They just didn't shoot the ball well. You lose Justin Coger with 7.5 left in the game to a 5th foul. It's going to be hard to come back. So, that was strange. And then I think probably the biggest thing was the girl from Independence setting a 3-point field goal record.
Yeah, Chloe Lane.
16. Yeah, Chloe Lane, 16 3-pointers in a game. And it's really weird. You mentioned they're a winless team. They've been beaten this year. Sometimes I don't know if you guys have checked their scores or not. There have been games when they've scored 4, 7, 9 points in a game. and she hits 16 3-pointers.
Against Summers
53
County.
Points against Summers County. Against Summers County, a very, they're known for their defense. It's not like they, give up a lot of points in any game. 53 to Independence, that's Independence's season high by 23 points. I mean, I looked at the scores for Summers County. They had a lot of pretty well-rounded scoring, box score, and I would assume maybe they called off the Dogs a little bit early, but still, if you hit 16 3-pointers in a game, you guys know you got to make them go in.
That is one every 2 minutes of game time.
I think she had five in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Starts out hot. She said she felt like every shot that left her hand was going in, and I think she took 29, 16 to 29. Pretty good shooting for pretty good 3-point percentage.
Absolutely, and that is the second most 3-pointers made in a high school girls basketball game by an individual in the history of girls high school basketball in the country. It's a state record. It's the second most nationally. There was a girl from Kentucky who made 17 of 27 on one night as well. Now, the boys' record's a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that was 2013.
Right. So, nobody had made 16 in a game because several had made 15, one had made 17, and now Chloe Lane makes 16, and she's in a national record book.
Yes, it's a pretty unique story. I mean, especially for Independence, they haven't had a lot of success in girls basketball. And the interesting thing, talking to her, she said, "Well, I've got a few games left. I think I could do even better." Maybe she's gunning for that now. If I made, show you her. I think her quote was, "I made 16. If I can do 16, I can make more." So you got to give her credit for a little confidence there. I don't know if you're in a zone like that, if you ever get that back. 16, I've seen 9, 10 from guys in games and thought, wow, that's incredible. But to make 16 is just not something that you hear every day.
I know I could go back in my playing days in my not so esteemed career, but I could go back to my playing days, and I can tell you right now, I would go maybe 4 or 5 practices, including warm-ups and shooting drills and everything else, and not make 16 threes. Now, that didn't stop me from shooting them, and even throw a couple of games in there, too.
I hate to say it, but you go back to my playing days, it wasn't even a 3-point line, so there you go. I probably would have had 16 in my career if there had been a 3-point, maybe.
But,
I could have had about, I could have scored, instead of 32 points in a career, I probably would have had about 45.
There you go.
And Chloe Lane had 48 points in one game. So
yeah, absolutely incredible night for her. We actually are planning to have her booked. We will have her on the program a little bit later on tonight. We made contact with her earlier this week, but still, just an incredible performance. And Dave, were you able to make it to any games tonight?
No, I was going to Westside and Liberty this evening, and Raleigh County canceled school, so that game was canceled. And I was just thinking about going to the Army for the Greater Beckley game with Tug Valley. That turned out to be a wild one. Greater Beckley pulled it out, big win for them. They've now won 11 in a row and are 18-2. Now they've added a game. I don't know if you guys caught the tweet before. They're going to be playing Notre Dame out of Clarksburg on the 23rd at Fairmont State University. So that'll be an interesting. Of course, Notre Dame came in. You're going to add. They're taking away. Their JV is going to play the first 2 games of the Christian school tournament. So they'll have another game open, and I think Brian Helton wanted to add a game later in the year, right before the sectional. So he added the number 17 in single A.
Yeah,
and they're tied with Tug Valley. So he's going to be playing 2 number 17s. And I expect those ratings will change around a little bit, the AP poll-wise, because Bishop Donahue did lose this week. So Greater Beckley could move up to number 2, and, of course, those polls don't matter, as you guys know. But they're interesting to talk about.
Absolutely.
So, that's great games. If you guys get a chance tonight, please ask Cos, why were you spelling out the score
I noticed
Jefferson.
that. I noticed that.
I know the answer to it. So I know the answer. I'll let you in on something. I know he had a typo, so I hate to even call him out like this, but I mean, what are friends for?
Right.
He had put 37-38. I think he meant 28.
Mm-hmm.
So, I tweeted. I was like, well, gosh, what do you put in the losing score first? What's next, a cliche? So the next time he posted, screen never answered, never replied. Next time he answered, he wrote it out.
Hey,
good old Cod.
That's right. Rick Kozlowski's always quick on his feet, or however he needs to be to come up with a quick retort. And Dave Morrison, ESPN Radio, The Ticket in Hinton. Always a pleasure to talk with you, and look forward to doing so again next week. Hopefully we'll get these technical issues, get these bugs out of the system here real quick.
Oh, yeah, it's always nice talking to you guys. You guys have a great show. I enjoy being on with you.
All right, we always appreciate it. Again, that's Dave Morrison, 102.3 The Ticket in Hinton. Right now, let's go to Chad Richards, WSPW. He's been following Parkersburg South. And, Chad, I understand you have a report for us on the Parkersburg South John Marshall game.
Yes, I do. As you recall, that's the OVAC 5A semifinals, and Parkersburg South did win that by a huge margin, 73-30. So they'll be going to the finals tomorrow against Morgantown.
Those two teams have played a few games here recently, getting very familiar with each other here down the stretch of the season.
Yes, they have. I think tomorrow will be their third meeting this season.
Yep, and the team split. Of course, the Lady Patriots getting the win over Morgantown back on February the 3rd. And, Chad, one thing I noticed from the OVAC, at least in the 5A division, which, again, the OVAC divisions are not in relation to the SSAC divisions. It's they have their own system for separating schools there. But the West Virginia schools fare a lot better than the Ohio schools do in the OVAC.
Yeah, I did notice that. It's definitely something interesting to watch out at. But as for the John Marshall game, leading scorers were Anna Hayden with 19 points. 15 of those points were in the first quarter. Most of those were two-pointer layups, which South, as we know, is usually known for working the outside the three-pointer line, but it's always good to have players who can make the layups. So those are some good quick points right there.
Yeah, it's a Parkersburg South team. I think when people around the state talk about them, Taryn McCutcheon, Kia Bartlett are the two names as guards, but Anna Hayden obviously adds a little bit of a different element to that program as well, and a little bit different look for that team as they are able to score on the inside a little bit more. Chad Richards, WSPW. Parkersburg South again, and that game with Morgantown is when and where coming up here?
That's at Ohio University Eastern. The 5A will be tomorrow at 12:30.
So Parkersburg South and Morgantown will head over to Ohio to play tomorrow in the OVAC 5A title game. Hey, Chad, always a pleasure talking with you. And, I got to tell you right now, teams like Parkersburg South and the girls program they've got there right now, they don't come around all the time. So enjoy it while you can, because, I mean, they success is fleeting.
Yep. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, that's Chad Richards, WSPW. Right now, we're going to step aside and take a break. When we come back, we will get a check of our basketballnight.com scoreboard. Bill Cornwell will also join us tonight here in studio as Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia continues here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Join us online and vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight, and then we'll share the voting results. Last week, 70% of you agreed high school basketball should stay playing 4 quarters, 8 minutes each, and not change it to 2 16-minute halves. This week's question, What's the most all-around competitive region in West Virginia high school basketball, both boys and girls this season? Vote tonight. Either Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, or Region 4. Go to basketballnight.com to vote in this week's poll. You'll see the poll on the right-hand side of the page. You've got till 11:45 tonight to vote, and we'll share the results at the end of the show this evening. Basketball Friday Night, West Virginia's high school basketball voice. Streaming video live from the studios at Marshall University. Visit basketballnight.com for video, audio, and the Basketball Friday Night scoreboard. Watch our live high-definition video stream by going to basketballnight.com. It just takes one click to watch. Listen online with any computer or mobile device by clicking the Listen Live tab. Become part of the Basketball Friday Night family. We'd like to hear from you about your games. You can become our correspondent and update us on your team's game every day of the week. Follow us on Twitter, too, @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. Call the show. We want to hear from you tonight. 1-855-345-4709, 855-345-4709. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
This is high school basketball's home for the Mountain State. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to Basketball Night in West Virginia with James Collier, Coach Rick Marone, and Ryan Epling.
It is 9:26 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Rick Marone with you. Bill Cornwell also with us tonight in studio. Happy to have you along here with us on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Bill Cornwell, welcome into the program.
Thanks a lot. I was privileged to be part of a record-setting night tonight at Spring Valley. Spring Valley gets the win over the Nitro Wildcats by 83-61 score, and in that game, actually about 3 minutes before halftime, Jacob Kilgore became the all-time leading scorer at Spring Valley, passing Brandon Moore, who was a little over a decade ago was a big bomber for the Timberwolves. And Jacob Kilgore, just another night at the office as he tallied a very pedestrian 32 tonight. And he's been doing that night after night all basketball season.
Well, he has really picked his scoring up this season as, again, technical issues are biting us a little bit.
Yes, let's just do this for just a second here. All right, there
Rick,
we go.
You're so nice to share your microphone with me.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. And but he's had to pick up his scoring more this year. He's averaging over 25 points per game.
Coming into the season, you knew that he and Greg Herbert were going to be the 1-2 punch for Spring Valley, and then what Spring Valley was going to do and is still going to do is going to determine by who on the rest of the club really steps up and gives them some points, and that's going to be a big determining factor. But those guys get their points every night, and matter of fact, senior night at Spring Valley, and Greg Herbert has a 20-point night as well, as actually he ends up with 19, so just short at 20. But those two guys have certainly got their points, but you're right, Kilgore has really stepped it up, and lately he has just been on fire from three-point range. Of course, he has a great advantage. The guy's about 6'5" and big wingspan, so it's tough to block his shot. And add to his offensive skills, he's a killer rebounder too. I mean, here's a guy that basically usually gets about a double-double each night.
And again, big win tonight for the Wolves over Nitro, and we've got more to talk about with the MSAC a little bit later on. We'll do that. Some teams wanted out, and they weren't allowed.
Matter of fact, speaking to the Nitro folks, of course, they're right in the middle of this thing, and we'll talk about it because there's some issues, not just sports-wise, but enrollment-wise coming up for them. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that in just a minute. But right now, let's have our first check of the basketballnight.com scoreboard. I'll take it for you tonight. Again, this is just a limited look. Much more will be coming in throughout the process of the night. If you're looking for scores, look no more, visit basketballnight.com or follow us on Twitter at hoops_roundup. Class AAA games tonight. Final score: the Spring Mills Cardinals lose to Hedgesville. Hedgesville gets the win 57-50. That game was within a possession late in the contest. Number 3 Huntington goes to Hurricane and falls to the Redskins 66-65 as Hurricane gets the win. They knocked down a free throw late in that one and able to preserve a home victory over Huntington. Big game there tonight. Also tonight in the Eastern Panhandle, Jefferson defeats Washington 84-53, the final score for the Jefferson Cougars, getting the win in Charlestown over Washington. Tonight it was Morgantown over Wheeling Park 58-43. The Mohegans get the win. As Bill just mentioned, Spring Valley, the Timberwolves beat Nitro 83-61, the final score there. Also tonight, final score, George Washington over Point Pleasant 67-29. South Charleston ranked number 1 in Class AAA, and deservedly so. The Black Eagles roll over Winfield tonight 97-54. Big win there for South Charleston. Class AA, a big matchup in the Coalfields tonight, and Chapmanville Regional gets the win over Mingo Central 43-40. That was a game that had some wild swings early. Mingo Central hit 5 of its first 6 shots and then got shut out almost the entire second quarter. Chapmanville Regional built up a double-figure halftime lead and then held on to beat the Miners, who had been red hot going into that ball game. The Man Hillbillies get a win tonight at Mount View. They get the win in Welch 75-57 win for Man. Also tonight, Oak Glen defeats Toronto, Ohio 64-48. The Polka Dots remain undefeated. They beat Sissonville tonight 60-41, the final score. Polka gets the win. Also tonight, final score, Parkersburg Catholic and Ravenswood down to the wire, and a 51-50 win tonight for Parkersburg Catholic, who got that win on a 3 with 6 seconds left in that game to win at the pit. Big matchup in Class A, Wheeling Central defeats Charleston Catholic tonight 50-44. That was a back and forth game as well. Chase Harler had double-figure rebounds in that one in the first half alone. Richwood beats Fayetteville tonight 70-59. Again, those all-boys action. Tonight we are continuing to build our scoreboard tonight. We will get you more scores as they come in throughout the night tonight. That's our first check of the basketballnight.com scoreboard. Let's go back to the phones. Kyle Moon with WVSB in Romney. He follows Hampshire and also the West Virginia School for the Deaf. Kyle, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's talk about the Hampshire Trojans tonight.
Well, for tonight specifically, the boys and girls games, they were both supposed to go to Elkins, I believe, and both games ended up being canceled. But earlier this week, the girls had their senior night. The girls won 91-40 against Shenandoah Christian University. Quite an interesting game. They had 6 different players with 3-pointers. It was not close at all. And then the boys had 2 big wins this week against Washington and Kaiser. Won both of those, and every time I go watch them, I got to say they're just getting better and better. And I'm expecting a lot of things in the postseason out of the boys this year.
Well, that's a Hampshire team that the boys 9-6 was the last record I had for them, and the girls 5-10. But again, as we get down the stretch of the season, you start looking at matchups in Hampshire this upcoming week. Some home games with Frankfort and Musselman coming into Romney.
Yeah, definitely 2 big games. I know I've talked to some of the players actually in school, and they're really, really, as well as anybody that goes and watches them, they have the potential to go far this year. They have the ability and they have the skill level to make it pretty far in the playoffs because they've got outside Travis Clower, who is playing just fantastic, the shooting guard. He is a great rebounder. He makes his shooting percentage on a 3 is ridiculous. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know earlier this game earlier this week when I went to the game against Washington, he was 4 for 4 from the three-point line that night. And then down low, they have Jordan Grapes. He's a junior, but very tall, good at getting rebounds down there, and he gets a lot of offensive rebounds too. And with the combination of those two, it's a pretty scary team.
Definitely a team that we'll be keeping an eye on for the postseason, and the Hampshire girls team also. I remember it's been longer ago than I would care to remember at this point. It's been 14 years ago. They had a pair of twins on a team that went into Charleston with very high expectations, ranked number 1, and got beat by Nitro. I remember in the first round, what turned out to be a powerful Nitro team. But that program really hasn't been a major factor on the state level since, I believe it was the Davis twins. Is that correct? Can you go back that far with me? I might be predating you here right now.
Well, here's the problem. I'm 17, and that was 14 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to say I don't remember.
All right. I now feel really old. All right.
It's all right.
Nonetheless, hey, it'll happen to you too. Trust me. But,
give it time.
Exactly. But that girls team, they have two more games coming up this week. Game against Frankfort on the road, and a game at Fort Hill, Maryland, over in Cumberland. So a couple of trips over toward the state line there for a couple of matchups on this upcoming week for them before their regular season ends.
Yeah, and I think a big problem with the girls this year, they have a new coach. And last year, I know they weren't a huge factor, like you said, but they did go to states last year, and they lost in the first round. They were the last seed. But they only lost one starter from last year. So coming into this year, there was some big expectations, but Coach Al Straley had some off-the-field problems, and he didn't get the coach this year. And it's really just not clicking at all this year with the new coach. Things just aren't the same. And it's worth noting that Taylor Harwood, the player that they lost from last year, was the point guard. And one of the things they're missing this year is a strong point guard, because shooting guard Mary Feaster, who is killer from the three-point line, has to do point guard a lot of the time because they don't really have anyone else. And it really limits the amount of shooting she gets. And it's just, things aren't clicking there for them this year. It's really, I know they have the skill, because like I said, they lost one player from last year, but it's just not working with the new coach.
Well, a lot of times your point guard makes everything go, and that can maybe seem like, well, you're only losing one player, but that can be sometimes the most important one in your program. Hey, we definitely appreciate you calling in with us tonight, Kyle, and sorry for asking you about something that happened when you were 3 years old.
That's all right. I think I can forgive you.
All right. We do that. Kyle Moon, WBSB. Definitely enjoyed that one. And Coach, you were at that state tournament when Nitro beat Hampshire. That was an incredible ball game. I think Ashley Huffman had a basket right at the end of that one.
Right.
For Nitro.
Yeah, Ashley Huffman, who had started her career at Polka.
Yeah.
And Nitro, that was an awesome game. And I think I was 5 at that time around. So a little older than Kyle, but not quite as old as you. So.
Oh, there we go.
I could really make him feel old, because I went to state tournaments in 1968.
There we go.
They were playing at Eddie King Gym some of those games.
Back in the day. Hey, you know who's having another sound, good, quality basketball season? Maybe it doesn't reflect in the record, but when you talk about who they play night in, night out, it's a good basketball team, and one that will be dangerous here in the next couple of weeks. That's the George Washington Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
The girls basketball coach, Jamie LeMaster, joins us now. And, Coach, I just went back 14 years ago with a young man who turns out to be 17 years old, and tried to ask him about the 2001 Girls AAA State Tournament. He didn't seem to remember it quite so well. I think you can go back a little bit further.
I thought I was in a hot tub time machine there for a minute.
Well, Coach, your ball club coming off of, or getting ready for postseason play, I should say, and coming off of a nice win over Woodrow Wilson, 58-41, and a team that tough schedule as always in the MSAC, and one that will definitely have you ready for the postseason.
Well, yes, sir. We got a nice one over Woodrow Wilson, but we are a tired basketball team as of the season. We played 6 games in the last 8 days. We played last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, took the weekend off, and came back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I told them coming to Thursday after we left the game, I said, we're taking tomorrow off and don't go anywhere near a gym. Go be kids for a day, and we'll come back and gather on Friday. Coaches are tired, kids are tired, and everybody's tired.
I was getting ready to say,
I thought I passed myself. I thought I passed myself on the interstate driving down from Ashland and Cabell Midland. I think I waved at myself once.
I'll tell you, you can tear up the miles on the interstate highways around here, in the especially in the MSAC. But you know, sometimes the kids tend to not be as tired as the coaches get. They recover a little bit quicker, from what I understand.
Oh, they're very resilient. And they came out each night, and they played well. And, you know, it showed a little bit. I think it caught up with us at Capitol High School a couple nights ago. That was, I believe, like a 38-36 game. And, of course, that being a rivalry game. But we did earn the win, and we got tired in the fourth quarter. But then we turn around and we go down and we play Beckley, and a good Beckley team and a very athletic Beckley team, and just played well. But I tell you right now, man, my big kid, and Coach has seen her, that Shy Banks is just, she is the offense. People say run the offense. I say she is the offense.
I can vouch for that.
6'3", averaging 20 a game.
Coach, I tell you what, you talked about your schedule, and I don't think there's any question that you play as difficult to schedule as anybody. And your conference, of course, is a war every time out in that conference. But Coach, you've overcome some adversity this year. I know early in the season you had some pieces you were trying to fit together, and just as you look at the latter part of the season, as we talked at the beginning of the show, one more weekend and it's sectional time. How do you feel your team is coming around? I know you've been battling night in, night out, but are things fitting together, and are you feeling like you're peaking at the right time?
Well, you know, this is going to sound a little funny, but we're kind of finding ourselves right now, and I think basketball, especially this time of year, is getting hot at the right time. And this GW girls team has put together some nice wins, and you know, we battled with Kenny DeMoss and Parkersburg at GW the other night, and I looked up the end of 8 minutes, and it's we'd scored 28 points. I said, wow, the problem was they scored 21. And we were on at halftime. We had 50 points, and I sent my AD out to Southridge to buy corn dogs. If we broke 100, it was going to be free corn dog night. So I was getting nervous, but we ended up earning that win, and it's just a good ball game. And you know, like you said, in this conference, man, every night is so difficult because the teams are so strong, so well coached. You just never know what's going to happen.
Well, Coach, I think that's what's fun about it. I mean, sometimes it can be frustrating, it can be difficult, but you get that mental test as well, because like you said, it's a conference where if one team plays well and the other doesn't, they will blow that team out of the gym on any given night, and the same two teams could meet the next night, and the exact opposite could happen.
Oh, absolutely, and we're getting ready to face that. Monday we'll play a Princeton team at GW, and then we're going to take a trip down to Greenbrier East on Wednesday, which is beneficial for us because at this point in the season, there's a possibility we could face them in a regional game, so it's good for me to get my kids down there in Lewisburg and play. And then on Thursday, we'll turn around and play the MSAC place game. So, and then we'll look ahead to sectional play. And, of course, our section is South Charleston having a fantastic year. And then you look at GW and Capitol, and then you've got Ripley and Riverside. And, of course, on the other side, down in our region, we've got Greenbrier East just having a great year. And they're big kids doing special things and going to be hard to guard. And then behind them, you're looking at a Princeton, a Beckley, and however that thing shakes out. But yeah, it's coming time.
Coach, you mentioned South Charleston, and really they've not been a surprise coming into the season. Most people expected them to have an outstanding team, and they have a team that's really caught a lot of attention there in the Valley. St. Albans.
Oh, Coach James, a great friend of mine, doing a fantastic job. They beat us in the regular season, I believe it was at GW, and then we turned around and went down to the Big Atlantic and faced them in the finals of the Big Atlantic, and the games were identical. It was a close first half, and at halftime it's a 3-4 point game, and they end up separating in the second half both times. And when the Beckley paper spoke to me, and I meant this respectfully, I said, hey, we've had 2 shots at them. They're just better than us right now. Coach James's team is so disciplined, plays so well, so athletic, and is really buying into what he's doing. And congratulations to him that he's having a great year.
Well, definitely. Your team, again, solid programs. You got to always look for what's the consistent in a program. And Coach, you've done a fantastic job with the girls at George Washington, not only this year, but over the course of the past several years as well. We definitely appreciate you joining us, and we wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And, I look forward to Friday every week because it's not because it's Friday, because basketball Friday nights on. I get from 9 to midnight to listen and talk about basketball. That's the best thing about Friday.
Hey, and you're always welcome to join us anytime. Well, obviously 9 to midnight, because other than that, we're probably not going to be here. But 9 to midnight, anytime, you're always welcome.
Well, then I'll just call Coach Marone on the cell phone.
Yeah, there you go.
He's not doing anything, just calling.
Right, yeah, he's not. Yeah, Coach Marone over here is never busy or anything. So, Coach Lemaster, again, thank you very much. That's Jamie Lemaster. He's the head coach of the George Washington Lady Patriots. Right now, we're going to step aside and take a break. When we come back, we'll talk with Wes McKinney, W8EY in Princeton, and with Brian Johnson, WCEF in Ripley. Hey, the Vikings are an interesting team to talk about this particular week. We'll have that when we come back here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Mackenzie Barker, Clay County Lady Panthers, Jared West, Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Jadarian Wade, Parkersburg Big Reds, Gage Wicks, Williamstown Yellow Jackets, Gavin Nichols, Clay County Panthers, Elijah Cuffey, Polka Dots. What they all have in common is they were selected by Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia as the standout athlete of the week. Have someone remarkable on your team? Did you have an athlete make an outstanding play? You can nominate your team's players to become the Basketball Friday Night Standout Athlete of the Week. Each week, we consider nominees based on leadership, performance on the court, academic performance, involvement in the community, and volunteer work. Every Friday night, we select a Standout Athlete of the Week. Head over to our website, basketballnight.com, and click on the Standout Athlete of the Week tab. Fill out the nomination form, and we'll take it from there. We want you to nominate your team's athletes. Check it out at basketballnight.com. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, the Mountain State's voice for all things high school basketball. Join us online and vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight, and then we'll share the voting results with you. Last week, 70% of you agreed high school basketball should stay playing 4 quarters. The new question this week, what's the most all-around competitive region in West Virginia high school basketball, both boys and girls this season? Is it Region 1, 2, 3, or 4? Go to basketballnight.com. Vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Coach Rick Marone, James Collier, and Ryan Epling.
9:48 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Rick Marone, and Bill Cornwell with you here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Happy to have you along, and full slate of games. Another one tonight for Wes McKinney, WAEY in Princeton, as the Tigers were scheduled to play Capital. I know some teams down in the Mercer County area were unable to play tonight. Wes, did Princeton make that trip to Capital tonight?
No, sir. No, they did not. They're going to play tomorrow afternoon up in Charleston at 1:45 against the Cougars.
All right, good deal. And it's hard to kind of keep track of all the games that get postponed, and that's an ongoing process for us here tonight. So definitely appreciate you getting that for us. But let's talk about Princeton. Earlier this week, tough loss to a very good Parkersburg team. Again, that's a Parkersburg team that I think will be dangerous in the postseason. And unfortunately, Woodrow Wilson still Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, guys, I was very impressed by Parkersburg. I mean, I looked at their schedule. I knew that they'd beaten Beckley the night before. They'd beaten Oak Hill 2 nights before. So I thought they might come in a little weary, but they put Princeton away in that second quarter. It was 18-18 early on in the second quarter, and then they proceeded to outscore Princeton 22-4 over about the last 7-15 of the second quarter, and really put the game away. And like you said, Ryan, Parkersburg, a team that will be very, very dangerous to anybody in Region 1 come March.
Well, Princeton now 6-11, and again, you mentioned they're going to Capital tomorrow, but 2 home games to end the regular season before the MSAC game. It's hard to believe we're already into the backstretch. I mean, we're right down to the end of the regular season here for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, Ryan, it's actually going to be 3 home games next week. I know the Riverside game has gotten shuffled around a little bit, but it's going to be Bluefield on Tuesday, Riverside Wednesday, Oak Hill at home on Thursday. So 3 straight home games for Princeton, and hopefully, maybe you get Bluefield, catch them on an off night. Riverside's always a tough match for Princeton just because they're so athletic. And then Oak Hill, as bad as Princeton has been at times this year, if they can beat Oak Hill on Thursday night, they should lock up the 3 seed in the section, which means you avoid playing that first round kind of play-in game, I guess, almost, so to speak. And if you draw the 3 seed, though, the bad news on that is you probably have to go back to the Raleigh County Convention Center and play Woodrow Wilson.
Well, definitely, again, we say it every week, but it's hard to believe we're getting back on the home stretch of things. But now, is it also possible that for the and help me out here, for that next Friday night, Princeton could be in an MSAC placement game? Is that correct?
Yeah. They've been kind of teetering around 11, 12, 13 right now, and it's the odd seeds host the even seeds, so it's almost would do Princeton better to maybe be 13 and then host 14. But Princeton just right now, they're still just struggling to kind of find that consistency that we thought we might see. And I hate to say it, but this team has kind of underachieved this year. They had Aaron Ferguson and a couple other seniors that I think maybe people were expecting a little bit more from. But hey, just get into the dance and hopefully see what happens here.
Hey, that's what you're talking about right now. I definitely appreciate it. And Wes, we look forward to talking with you again next week. And you got a busy week ahead, my friend.
Yeah, no kidding, guys. It's going to be a long week, and then obviously tomorrow's game. So we're going to do like 4 games in 6-7 days. So it'll be interesting. But just one last comment I wanted to make, guys. I'm glad that I was on ahead of Brian Johnson, because that's a tough act to follow.
There you go. All right. Set the table for us right there. Wes McKinney, WAEY in Princeton. Thanks as always. And moving right along to Brian Johnson, WCEF in Ripley. Brian, now you've had a little bit of a setup. I think Wes trying to put a little pressure on you.
Well, I'm not sure that I warrant those kind words from Wes, but I do appreciate it. I think maybe he's saying that because I've been sharing rosters with him, so we got to stick together here. It's sometimes tough to find opposing team rosters, so Wes and I have worked together well.
Hey, for people on the outside, the radio business people, it's a little tight-knit group, and every little bit of help is appreciated along the way. But let's talk about Ripley tonight. Double overtime ball game, lost to Parkersburg. It's been an interesting week for the Vikings, though, to say the least.
Well, it sure has. They played really well Wednesday at the Civic Center against the Westside Renegades, and played better really than we expected, to be quite honest. But Westside playing very well this year, knocking off Logan and Martinsburg. Came into that game on a 10-game winning streak, and the Vikings controlled that game from start to finish before walking away with a 18-point victory down there at the Civic Center on Wednesday afternoon. And then tonight, just a great effort by the Vikings guys, but it's been a reoccurring theme for them this year, struggling to put away the really good top-tier teams in the state of West Virginia, and they've played toe-to-toe with them, but have not been able to finish one of those off. And a lot of those are due to turnovers and tonight missed free throws. And, those little mistakes that you make start to pile up and turn into points off turnover for the Vikings, against the Vikings, rather, on the other end for Parkersburg. And when you look at losing a 3-point game in double overtime, those mistakes for a young basketball team can be teaching moments for head coach Evan Faulkner, but I know he's tired of the moral victories. He's ready to get the real deal.
Hey, Brian, this is Bill Cornwell. It's an honor to talk to Brian because Brian and I are the only two guys in Western West Virginia that talk Kentucky football and do it knowledgeably, right, Brian?
That's right.
Of course, I'm a big Kentucky fan, and Brian was a former UK kicker, and we love talking Kentucky football when Brian comes to Spring Valley or we get up to Ripley.
Bill, we could get booed. We could get booed off the air if we talk Kentucky football the entire time. I'll tell you that.
We'll hit it later, but I do want to ask you about Evan Faulkner, and you mentioned some of the close but no cigar games that Ripley's had this year, but they did have a good win against Spring Valley up at Ripley just a few weeks ago, and they have won some games in the past they have not won, and it really seems that big picture, Faulkner's got this program going in the right direction.
He really does. He's done a great job with these kids. They're 10-9 right now, and realistically, you could probably tack 3-4 more wins onto that fairly easily. And he's finding his way as well, and he'll be the first to admit that he's made a few mistakes, things that he would do differently. But a first-year coach with a young basketball team, and he's got two bigs inside that are doing a great job dominating the paint this year, and a guard in Jamison Hunt who made 6 threes tonight at Parkersburg and led the way for the Vikings. Evan has done a great job, and he's really starting to instill some confidence in these kids. And, eventually it's going to click. They're going to make a play at a crucial time in one of these games that they need to make to help them get over the top. And when they do that, I think the lid may come off of it for this team because the sky really is the limit. And that they have a chance of pretty much everyone returning next year to be a force to deal with.
And I'll tell you what, if he could ever get his teams at Ripley to play like he did at high school and those great teams at Elliott County, Kentucky, who were just up and down and just filling buckets like galore, little school that was playing the biggies and beating the biggies, if he could instill that kind of style at Ripley, you talk about a team that could be scary next year.
Oh, wow, yeah. And I don't know that you'll see him do that next year because of his big.
Right.
We have such an advantage in the paint. It'll be interesting to see what he does. And we feel like we need one more guard to step up. It's been fourth player really. That role player has been a revolving door all season long, and we've had guys step up and make plays and make buckets. But we need someone to step up and be a little more consistent, maybe pulling double figures in from that fourth scoring spot. And I think when that happens, this team could really take off.
Well, Ripley will be right back at it coming up on Tuesday with a trip down the turnpike to Woodrow Wilson. And that should be another big game. And Brian Johnson, WCEF.
Just gets easier.
Oh, yeah,
easier every game, right, guys? Well, that's another trip to Woodrow Wilson.
He says sarcastically.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Firmly speak on that one. Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. That's Brian Johnson, WCEF in Ripley. Right now, we've got to step aside, take a break. When we come back, we'll get another scoreboard update for you, and we'll introduce you to this week's Standout Athlete of the Week. That's when Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia continues here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
High school basketball action in West Virginia's heating up as the teams focus on a trip to the state championship in Charleston. Stay up to date with your local team and its progress all season long with Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia for 3 hours every Friday night from 9 to midnight. Listen online or on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. Big shout out to the folks that have been tweeting us tonight. including News Radio 910 WLTP West McKinney, Lisa Hunter, Coach Eddie, Braden Noon, Buddy Forbes, Coach Andre, Dave Morrison, Coach Eddie, and also Bradley Danner. Special thanks to our affiliates tonight, including Power 92 Radio, 92.3 FM, WYRC, LP in Spencer, 97.9 FM, WSPW-LP in Parkersburg, 91.5 FM, WRSG Middleburn, 106.7 FM, WHFI Linside, 101.9 FM and 1290 AM, WVOW Logan, 90.7 FM, WFGH Fort Gay, 98.5 and 101.5 FM, WQAZ-LP Edmond and Beckley, 101.7 FM, WYAP-LP in Clay, 88.1 FM, WMUL in Huntington. Cable subscribers can find Basketball Friday Night in Huntington on Comcast Channel 25 and Armstrong Digital Channel 204. Streaming online high-definition video can be found on our website, basketballnight.com, and on affiliate, rsnsports.com. Listen online with any computer or mobile device by going to basketballnight.com. This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Heard statewide on great radio stations. Visit basketballnight.com to find the station nearest you. Get all the scores all the time at basketballnight.com or on Twitter @hoops_roundup. Now back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with James Collier, Rick Marone, and Ryan Epling.
10:01 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. 1 hour down, 2 to go. We're with you till midnight. Ryan Epling, Rick Marone with you. And also with us is our special correspondent here on Basketball Friday Night, Andrew Harrison. And Andrew, it's time to select our standout athlete of the week. Andrew, who is our standout athlete tonight?
Ryan, tonight, standout athlete of the week for Basketball Friday Night is Stephen Hairston.
All right, and Stephen is from Sissonville High School, and I understand that you had an opportunity to speak with some people close to Stephen and get a little more information on him. So let's go ahead and roll that background package.
A senior out of Sissonville High School, Stephen Hairston is this week's Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia standout athlete of the week. Sissonville coach Rich Skeen says Hairston cares about more than playing basketball.
Well, he is very active in young life in our community, and that's a Christian group outside of the school. He is very active in that. He's a student body vice president, I believe, everyday leader in the school.
Hairston is relatively new to the game of basketball. He just started playing 3 years ago as a freshman. Some players want to get better and don't necessarily put the hours in to make it happen. However, Stephen works on getting better each day. Skeen says Hairston is continually striving to get to the top.
I run a fall league and a spring league. He's participated in that. He's been in the gym countless hours by himself. He got on an AAU team one all season. So he has just had to work to develop his game. He'll tell you it's been a long, hard fight to get to where he is now, but he'll tell you I think every minute of it has been worth it.
Stephen positions himself to take responsibility, not just on the court or in his community, but on the state level as well. Sissonville High School principal Ron Reedy says Stephen Hairston reflects everything the words student-athlete are supposed to represent.
I would call him the total package. He's a very good academic student, an excellent athlete. He's played basketball for us for 4 years, has excelled at that, and he's also involved in school activities.
Even with overcoming his late start in the game of basketball, Hairston continues to push to be the best athlete he may become and an even better young man. His work ethic bodes well for the success he is having now and will experience in his future. For Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, I'm special correspondent Andrew Harrison.
Well, Andrew, thanks for looking that up and getting that information on Stephen for us. Again, Stephen Harrison, our standout athlete of the week. And Andrew, I understand that he's also kind of breaking ground, so to speak, at Sissonville High School in a unique way.
Yes, Ryan. Stephen Harrison is the first African-American president of the DECA organization high school chapter here in West Virginia, and he's the first to do so. And it's for some who may not know DECA is a 70-year organization that helps prepare students for having careers in marketing, finance, and really trying to be entrepreneurs. And under this chapter, it's 3,500 chapters actually under the organization, and 200,000 of its 215,000 members are actually high school students.
That's outstanding. And Stephen Harrison, a young man who didn't start playing basketball until his freshman year of high school, and now he's the only senior that is starting for Sissonville. Andrew, thank you for introducing us to Stephen Harrison.
It's a pleasure, Ryan, as always.
All right, that's our special correspondent, Andrew Harrison. And right now, we're going to turn it over to Coach Rick Marone for a check of the BasketballNight.com scoreboard.
Looking for scores? Look no more. The Basketball Friday Night.com scoreboard is up and running and rolling right along. In Class AAA boys, Cabell Midland 60, St. Albans 57, Hedgesville 57, Spring Mills 50. Huntington High falls to Hurricane tonight. The Redskins 66, Huntington High 65, Jefferson 84, Washington 53. That game very close at the half. Ended up separating the Cougars in the second half of that one. Martinsburg gets a 76-62 win over the Musselman Appleman. Morgantown, the Mohegans, 58-43 winners over Wheeling Park. The Spring Valley Timberwolves, 83, Nitros, 61. In double overtime, Parkersburg gets a hard-fought 63-60 win over the Ripley Vikings. George Washington, 67, Point Pleasant, 29. South Charleston, the Black Eagles, soar high with 97, Winfield, 54. Class AA tonight, Chapmanville, a big win, a Cardinal Conference win, and also a sectional opponent as Chapmanville in a low-scoring affair, 43-40 winners over Mingo Central. Class A, Man, 75, Mount View, 57. Oak Glen, the Golden Bears, 66-48 over Toronto, Ohio. The Polka Dots continue to roll, continue to impress, 60-41 over Sissonville. Ravenswood 51, Parkersburg Catholic 50. The Scott Skyhawks in a game that was actually played last night. It was incorrect on some schedules, but we got that score for you as well. It's 92-48. Scott rolled over Tulsa last night. Class A boys, Wheeling Central 50, Charleston Catholic 44, Richwood 70, Fayetteville 59. The Union Tigers with 1:43 to go, leading Harmon 49-43. Also tonight, in girls action, Mountain Ridge, maybe the upset of the evening, Ryan, but Mountain Ridge knocks off Kaiser, the Golden Tornado, a very impressive year this year, but they fall to Mountain Ridge tonight by 12. Also in girls tonight, another classic battle. Lincoln gets a 59-57 winner over Bridgeport, and that's a battle no matter what the records are, a big, big win for the Lincoln Cougars. And, Ryan, that's a look after we tell you St. Joe defeated Notre Dame 71-29. So look at your BasketballNight.com scoreboard update.
Thank you very much, Coach Marone. And again, scores continue to roll in and will do so all throughout the night here on Basketball Night in West Virginia. Big ball game in Class Single A tonight was between Charleston Catholic and Wheeling Central. The Maroon Knights got the win. Adam Marco, 58 WCHS Radio in Charleston, had the call. And Adam, that was a game that I think Charleston Catholic's going to walk away feeling like it got away from them.
You know, you're absolutely right. And afterwards, talking with Matt Morrison, he was shaking with just how upset he was that the Irish couldn't pull off that game. Charleston Catholic had the lead 14-9 after one. It was a 1-point game at the half, 1-point game, Irish in front after three. I mean, at various points, it was down to a 1-point lead for Charleston Catholic. Then they built it back up to 3, 4, or 5. Mel Stevens and Chase Harler, well, they wouldn't let the Maroon Knights go away. Ultimately, Wheeling Central Catholic took their first lead with 15 seconds to go in the third quarter, took a 37-35 lead into the fourth, and then a 44-42 lead before they would go on and put it away by 6.
Harler was the story. The Irish, had they stopped Harler at any point in time, well, they were going to send him to the free throw line. I had him with 27 points and going 13 of 18 from the free throw line. The majority of that was in the second half. And he's such a dynamic player that the Irish really couldn't do much of anything to stop him in that fourth quarter run. Catholic was led by Hayden McCarty. He had 14 all in the first half. Roger Burdett had 14 all in the second half. And I think essentially just the Irish ran out of gas right there at the end and allowed one of the best players in the States to just really dominate on both sides of the floor.
That's a very good Wheeling Central ball club, and while I know that's a difficult loss, still you have to look at that as you look forward, big picture, right in that ball game, right down to the wire, and obviously Charleston Catholic has to know it can beat Wheeling Central, and Wheeling Central at this point, at least, still the flag bearer in Class A.
No doubt, and they deserve to be at the top of the AP poll and near the top in all the other polls that are out there. That they're impressive. Even in an effort where they only scored 50 points, that's 23 under their season average, they still looked good. And, Harler's the real deal with plenty of time left in his high school career. People know that. You key on him and somebody else is going to beat you. John Burkhalter added 10, but there's 37 of the 50 points that they put on the board tonight. It was just a tight, fun battle between these teams that, last time they played, it went to double overtime to decide the state championship. I was happy to be there, happy that it was that kind of game because, for the Irish, for Charleston Catholic's perspective, they lost to Nitro on Tuesday at the Charleston Civic Center. Nitro has now 3 wins this season. They were blown out by Notre Dame on their home floor a few weeks ago. So you go in not knowing, is it going to be a close game? Matt Morrison can take a lot of positives out of this, even with their 6th loss of the year. The schedule's not getting any easier. They've got Gilmer County next week, and then after that, 3 games in the final week of February, including Double-A Polka, their very last game of the year.
Yeah, definitely still a tough stretch to go ahead for this young Charleston Catholic ball club, but it, again, is 11 or was 11-5 coming in tonight, now 11-6, and but still definitely a threat here in the upcoming month. Adam Marco, always a pleasure, and I look forward to talking with you again next week.
Take care.
All right, that's Adam Marco, WCHS 58. I'm still going right back to the phone lines because we don't waste any time here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, because if we did waste time, our resident referee, he may just assess a technical foul, and we don't want that. He was only on hold for 7 minutes tonight. Here is our resident referee, Bo Anderson. He joins us here on Basketball Night in West Virginia. Apparently, we're just not going to give him any. Oh, there we go. See, we're giving him a rough time now. Bo has been in studio with us the last 2 weeks. This time calling in, roles reverse. See, Marone comes back when Bo's out. I see how this works now.
Well, he's afraid I'm going to pop him with one, so he knows when I'm coming. See.
Well, Bo, I think one thing that we can jump right in on is this happened in a college game last night, but we can still transition it into high school as well. Southern Miss, in its game against Florida International, had to play the last 48 seconds of overtime with only 4 players due to they only had 7 who dressed for the game and 3 fouled out. High school basketball, you have to start with 5, but after that, you don't have to have 5 to finish the game, correct?
No, you don't have to. You can actually finish with 1 player, and if the score indicates that with that 1 player that you still have a chance to win the game, then you can continue to play. Obviously, you're not going to be able to throw the ball in. You might be able to run out of bounds and try to knock it off the other player and he can step in there and get it. But, yes, you can finish with 1 player in a high school basketball game, yes. And whenever they run out of eligible players on the roster, 1 player can finish the game.
How does that 1 player inbound the ball?
Well, they're not going to, but you have scenarios where they might be up 20 with 30 seconds to go. I mean, they could actually be winning the game, and so they can if they could grab it and throw it to the other team and hit it off their leg or something, and then legally get in bounds, 1 foot in or something touching in with that touching out, they can still play. So you can finish with one player in a high school game.
And one other thing that we wanted to touch on with you tonight is the closely guarded rule. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but still it's one that's coming up. It's that 6-foot window. But what people don't seem to understand is, one, 6 foot is not right up against somebody. That's a step and an arm reach away. Plus, it's not just beholden to one defender.
Right. In high school basketball, you have the 6 foot closely guarded. Now, first of all, has to be in the front court, because in the back court you have the 10-second count going. And then you have to understand what 6 feet is. Now, a lot of people think that they got to be up there right up on them. 6 feet, if you look on a basketball court, there's two things that you can tell 6 feet. One is from the foul line to the top of the key. That is a 6 foot distance. And the other is from the mid-court stripe to the end of the jump circle. That is a 6 foot distance. So everybody thinks they've got to be right up on them. Now, a player can control the basketball. A lot of people get this wrong, and when I teach the class, they can actually have possession of the basketball for a maximum of 12 seconds. Now, they can hold the basketball while being closely guarded, 6 feet. When the official gets to a 4 count, they can start dribbling the basketball if they're still closely guarded 6 feet. Then when they pick it up, then they have another 4 seconds, and then they got to get rid of the basketball before 5. So, yes, they can have possession of the ball with 12 seconds without a penalty. Now, the other thing is, if there is someone being closely guarded and a player from the other team sets a screen and the dribbler is still guarded within 6 feet by the other player that picked that person up off the screen, that 6 foot closely guarded distance is still going, and therefore there's still a count. So your 5-second violation may not necessarily be the same player guarding that person with the basketball. It can be two different players. So a lot of people don't understand that rule either, and they really don't understand 6 feet. 6 feet's a lot farther away than people think it is, and they still are in legal guarding position. And obviously, the only other thing is, in legal guarding position, that's established by both feet on the floor facing the opponent. Once you've done that, you can move sideways. You can turn around and guard them backwards. You can be moving backwards, and you're still in legal guarding position. And that word set has never been in the officials' rule book. The only thing that's in is, again, the fans' manual and the coach's manual, but it's not in the rule book. If you had to be set, then it's going to be awful hard to guard someone, because you might as well just put 5 store mannequins out there and let them be the ones guarding. So but that is, without an extensive view of it, that is the 6 foot closely guarded.
Bo, one quick thing just to define for folks, because I really think there's been a bit of a conspiracy out there as far as a point of emphasis. I think it's happened at the college level. I think it's happened in the high school level. I know this year in the clinics that I went to, and I know it's happened in the college level, everybody talked about points of emphasis, about hand checking, about physical play on the defense. And I'm just going to tell you, 20 games into this season, I don't see any difference. I think that people are getting away with riding people on their hips and controlling the person with the ball. Bill's shaking his head and agreeing with me.
I've seen it
I
a
think
lot.
there's a lot of lip service being paid to it. I have not seen it cleaned up, and I don't think until it is, basketball is not going to be the finesse game it's supposed to be. It's going to be closer to a wrestling match, and that's just my own 2 cents. But I think when you allow the more physical team to put hands on, I know the rule defines, it says 2 hands on, hand off, arm bar. I've researched it and looked it up. It's not being called consistently, and I think when it does get called, it's being called almost in an inconsistent manner, and it's creating more havoc because fans and coaches just want to know what's being called. So what is the point of emphasis in regards to hand checking, if you can do that, or we can bring you back after the break? I know that's a mouthful.
Well, it is the rule, 2 hands automatically. My game tonight, I had 3 or 4 of those 2 hands on. It's going to be a matter of not every official's the same. Not every official's going to call the same. Not every official's judgment's the same. And it's just like not every coach is the same. It's going to be a matter of how that official interprets the play. And, everybody's going to referee the play differently. The coach is going to referee it differently than the official in some cases. And, it is a point of emphasis. All the games I've had no trouble with it. It seems like, for the most part, the coaches have asked them to keep their hands off, and they have not argued with any two hands or hand checking or armbar call that I have made. And I have had several of them. And, again, tonight in my game tonight, I had several of them, and the coach was telling them you can't do that. And I haven't had a problem with it in my games because, I think the coaches have been coaching it. But, I can't speak for everybody. Every official is different. If all officials were the same, it'd be like all the coaches being the same.
Well, I agree with Bo. I agree with you there, but you may have to tee me up here tonight. But the rules are the same. I mean, the official may have his own interpretation, but it's not up to interpretation. If it's a hand check and you call it, then it should be a hand check when somebody else calls it. The problem that coaches have and that I have, if you can't tell, I watch film and I slow things down and I speed things up. And when I see things on film, it actually brings more things to attention. Again, that's just my soapbox for the night, but the rules are the same and should be called the same. I have to take an issue with that.
Well, obviously, as you well know, there's good coaches and there's bad coaches, and there's good officials and there's bad officials. So, therefore, with that being said, not every coach is going to have the best offense or the best defense. Not every official is going to make the best decisions. It separates the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Some guys take the officiating class thinking they're going to be the best, and it doesn't always happen. And sometimes they get better, just like coaches do as it goes along. They get wiser, smarter. Coaches see more offenses that they want to run because they've stole something from somebody else, and officials see more things that they want to do or need to do. And, it's never going to be the same. The rules are going to be the same, obviously, because it's National Federation. But as far as being called the same, it's just, in reality, it's just not going to happen. Some guys are just not going to call things, the way they're supposed to be called. And that doesn't mean that they don't want to do that. It's just sometimes their understanding. And, the only thing I could say is if you could program 3 robots out there to referee the game and, have some kind of a magnetic thing that goes off every time there's a head check, and then they just blow a metal whistle or something, and maybe
I just got an image of the Jetsons,
Yeah, maybe
the Jets. Yeah, George Jetson and the crew could call a game. But
I think I need to step in here. I need to separate Coach Marone and our resident referee right now. I don't want Coach Marone getting any technical fouls. I don't want any problems here between our coach and our referee. But, Bo, we definitely always appreciate talking with you. And when we come back, we're going to talk with the girl who is now in the national records, and it's one of the more improbable records that one would have. And we'll explain all of that when we come back on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
We want you to become part of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Follow us on Twitter. We'll make sure to mention your name tonight, especially the new followers. @hoops_roundup. @hoops_roundup. And a shout out to new follower, CJ Sulser. Also sending us tweets tonight. News Radio 910 WLTP, Dave Morrison, Coach Eddie, Bradley Dameron, C-Wade 3, Brandon Noon, Coach Eddie, Lisa Hunter, Wes McKinney, Dave Morrison, Buddy Forbes. Thanks for sending us all those scores. We really appreciate hearing from each and every one of you. Become part of the show. Go to our webpage, basketballnight.com. You can call, tweet, text, and email. Join us on the phone tonight and share your team's game. Call toll-free, 855-345-4709. 855-345-4709. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. You can also send scores in by email and by text. You can email scores@basketballnight.com. Scores@basketballnight.com. Our text number to send scores by text, 304-249-4924. 304-249-4924. Join us online and vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight. And the question is, what's the most all-around competitive region of West Virginia high school basketball? Both girls and boys this season. Is it Region 1, 2, 3, or 4? You've got till 11:45 tonight. This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Celebrating high school basketball around the Mountain State, you're listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, James Collier, Coach Rick Marone, and Ryan Epling.
10:26 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Rick Marone, Bill Cornwell with you in studio tonight. Any given night, at any gymnasium in the state of West Virginia, you might see something special. You can go to games for years and years and think you've seen it all, and then you go to a game that maybe you don't think much of, and you see something special. And that's exactly what happened earlier this week. Let me set the stage for you. The Independence Patriots girls team right now is 0-18, and they played Summers County, who is one of the titans of Class AA in girls basketball, absolutely. Independence this year in girls basketball has been held to under 10 points in 5 different games. Now, Summers County won that game 85-53. So you just look at that score, and it may not be enough, may not mean a lot to you. But you dig a little deeper, and we learned that 48 points in that game were scored by Chloe Lane of Independence High School, as she hit the second most threes ever made in a high school basketball game in the country. 16 threes in that ball game. Chloe Lane joins us now. And Chloe, when did you realize you were in the zone?
At the end of the first quarter. I hadn't even realized what I had made until I looked up and saw all 15 of the first quarter were my points.
Scoring has been a little bit of a struggle for this team this year. I mean, can't really avoid that. But just tell me about this offensive outburst. I mean, have you ever had a game like this growing up even?
The highest I've ever scored in a game was 22, I believe, and this is only something you can dream of. You can't, there's nothing you can do to make that happen. Most of the time somebody will stop you when you get on a roll.
And it comes against a Summers County ball club that, again, tradition-rich program. Did that – I don't think it matters who it's against, quite frankly, though. But the fact that you did it against a team that is a good defensive team year in, year out, still, though, 16 threes, incredible. What did your coach tell you maybe after the first quarter? Because if I understand, you said you had 5 threes at the end of the first quarter. Did your coach tell you just go ahead and fire away?
Well, usually every game he tells me to just pull it if I'm open. And he just looked at me, same thing he did every other game, and said, just keep shooting.
I think Coach Marone here would have turned you loose on that night also to fire away. And the most incredible thing too is in 29 attempts, 16 of 29 is a heck of a night from the field, let alone from the 3-point line. Coach, have you ever dealt with an opponent doing that? Or go ahead, Chloe. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chloe, this is Coach Marone, and congratulations on the record. Was there anything different that you did, or the way the game played out? Again, Summers County is probably one of the top teams defensively, and were you just in a rhythm to where things opened up? Were your teammates doing a great job getting you the ball? I'm sure that it was a full team effort.
Yeah, they did a great job finding me when I was open, and also Summers County, I think they laid off a little bit, once they got ahead, because it wasn't very hard to get open.
Well, let's be honest though. It's hard to hit 16 threes with nobody else in the gym. Is this a situation where you've been a pretty good shooter, haven't been able to get a lot of good looks this year, maybe, or is this just one of those nights where just basically it felt like everything you shot was going in?
It just felt like everything I shot was going in.
Chloe, was there any other games this year, maybe earlier in the year, where maybe you felt like you were in rhythm? Anything even close to this, or was this just one of those special nights where everything came together?
It's been a really tough season, and I've had a really hard time with the way our season has been this year. I kept praying and praying, and I think it was just God's way of letting me know, it's okay. Next year, I still have next year. Just gave me something to look forward to build off of, instead of being so down about how our team's been this year.
Yeah, Chloe, I was going to ask you about that. The struggles you have and, just not being able to get the W's, how do you keep yourself and your teammates up game by game?
It's hard. Like I said, I keep praying because I'm captain. I pray and I say, help me lead them, because I know I can pick myself up, but having to pick up 8 other girls is kind of difficult.
Well, Chloe, first off, again, congratulations on the state record. You're the only person in the country who has ever made, or the only girl in the country who's ever made 16 threes in a girls' high school basketball game. Again, the national record is 17. You almost got that. I don't think you realized that you were that close to it. Would you have shot a couple more if you had known that?
Yeah, I definitely would have.
I'll tell you, Chloe, this to me is one of the more remarkable stories that we've had the opportunity to come across. I can't think of anything like it in the years that I followed high school sports, which goes back to probably about the time you were born. But still, how has the attention been since this got out? Again, it's a kind of a nondescript game. I know that maybe you don't get a lot of coverage for when your team plays. You don't necessarily have a sports writer at that ball game. And then once word started getting out, how's the attention been?
It's unbelievable. I only lived 2 minutes from the school, and by the time I got home, my Twitter was blown up. And I didn't even know people knew about it yet.
Well, Chloe Lane, 16 threes in a single game, 48 points earlier this week in a loss to Summers County. I think that's a memory. The wins and losses in this case don't matter. That's a memory and a night to cherish, and we definitely congratulate you on that. And it was good having you here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. That's Chloe Lane, who is the West Virginia single-game all-time leader in three-pointers made. She made 16 in one game. Again, remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. We're going to have to step aside, take a break. When we come back, we're going to have a scoreboard update. We're going to hear from James Collier. We're going to hear from T.G. Griffith at WYAP and Chris Kidd at WVOW. Lots to talk about as Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia rolls on. We're halfway home here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Mackenzie Barker, Clay County Panthers. Jared West, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Jadarian Wade, Parkersburg Big Reds. Gage Wicks, Williamstown Yellow Jackets. Gavin Nichols, Clay County Panthers, Elijah Cuffey, Polka Dots. What they all have in common is they were selected as the Basketball Friday Night West Virginia Standout Athlete of the Week. If you've got someone remarkable on your team, or maybe they made an outstanding play or did something remarkable in your community, you can nominate your team's players to become the Basketball Friday Night Standout Athlete of the Week. Each week, we consider nominees based on leadership, performance on the court, academic performance, involvement in the community, and volunteer work. Every Friday night, we select a Standout Athlete of the Week. Head over to our website, basketballnight.com, and click on the Standout Athlete of the Week tab. Fill out the nomination form, and we'll take it from there. We want you to nominate your team's athletes. Check it out at basketballnight.com. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, the Mountain State's voice for high school basketball. Appreciate everybody sending us in scores via Twitter. We appreciate that. You can become part of the Basketball Friday Night score reporting team. Follow us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. Lots of ways you can connect with the show. You can go to basketballnight.com, and all our information is right there. Don't forget, we got a poll too. What's the most all-around competitive region in West Virginia high school basketball, both boys and girls, this season? Is it region 1, 2, 3, or 4? You've got till 11:45 tonight to vote. This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Coach Rick Marone, James Collier, and Ryan Epling.
It's 10:36 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. James Collier is going to join us in just a moment from Greenville, North Carolina. We've also got T.G. Griffith, WYAP, and Clay County that we'll get to in a moment as well. And we've also got our good buddy Chris Kidd, WVOW. We'll get to him also. But first, a check of the scoreboard. We'll turn it over to Bill Cornwell.
Well, if you're looking for the scores, you are at the right place. So here's the scoreboard for tonight. And we start off with a big win for a team that has struggled this year in Class AAA. Cabell Midland Knights, Steve Hibbert's Cabell Midland Knights team gets a win over the St. Albans Red Dragons this evening by a score of 60-57. Now, Capital and Princeton were to have played tonight, but weather issues down in the Mercer County area scrubbed that, and they're going to play tomorrow afternoon, Capital and Princeton. Elsewhere, Hedgesville and Spring Mills battle up in the Eastern Panhandle, and it's Hedgesville Eagles getting the win over the Spring Mill Cardinals. Showdown in Putnam County tonight in Class AAA. The rematch of last year's state championship game, and it was Huntington losing to the Hurricane Redskins. On the Hurricane Redskins scored by a score of 66-65. Jefferson tonight, big win over the Washington Patriots, another Eastern Panhandle game, 84-53. Martinsburg takes care of the Musselman Applemans, another one up in the Eastern Panhandle. Martinsburg gets the win over the Applemans, 76-62. It was Wheeling Park losing to the Morgantown Mohegans in OVAC play, 56-43. Spring Valley gets the win over the Nitro Wildcats, 83-61. Moving on, Parkersburg Big Reds in action, and they, in 2 overtimes, get the W over the Ripley Vikings by a score of 63-60. Struggling Point Pleasant team struggles again, losing to GW. George Washington gets the win, 67-29. Big win for South Charleston over Winfield, 97-54. We go to Class AA, and it's the Mingo Central Miners falling to the Chapmanville Tigers by a score of 43-40. Looking on down, Mount View loses to the Man Hillbillies, 75-57. Oak Glen, a win over Toronto, Ohio, 66-48. No, they're not the Maple Leafs. Polka Dots keep on rolling. They got the win over Sissonville 60-41. Ravenswood, a shocker here. Parkersburg Catholic gets the win over the Red Devils by a score of 51-50. Scott Skyhawks get the win over Tulsa tonight by a score of 92-48. Now we go to Class Single A, 50-44. Wheeling Central gets the win over Charleston Catholic. It was the Richwood Lumberjacks beating the Fayetteville Pirates 70-59. Close one. GBC Crusaders beat Tug Valley by a score of 47-45. Isaiah Francis, 2 free throws in the last 5 seconds, gives Greater Breckley Christian that win. Big showdown there. It was Union beating, actually, we have a partial score on that one. Union over Harmon late the fourth, 49-43. Mountain Ridge beats Kaiser's Golden Tornado 51-39. Lincoln Cougars over the Bridgeport Indians by a score of 59-57. Maybe a little bit of an upset there. And then finally, St. Joe's Irish beating Clarksburg Notre Dame 71-29.
Those last 3 games, girls scores, of course, are still 3 boys teams undefeated in West Virginia, all of them in Class AA. Polka, Bridgeport, and Fairmont Senior. Fairmont Senior and Bridgeport have some Big Ten business to take care of before the postseason begins. We'll get to James Collier in just a minute. Right now, I'm going to go to T.G. Griffith, WYAP, Clay County. And T.G., we missed you last week.
Hey, boys and girls. Well, I got back late from Webster County and had some things going on, but I can't. How do you follow Chloe Lane?
Wow.
I mean, that's news. That's basketball news. And the rest of this stuff's just going to be fluff, I guess, after that. Hey, congratulations. Her, man, she sounds like she's got the right attitude, I'm telling you. She impressed me.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, we got
absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was just going to say we were sitting here impressed, and at the same time still just. I think she had the same thing we did too. Just kind of like, I still can't believe that happened.
Yeah. How'd that happen anyway? Yeah, well, congratulations to her. That's just great. That's outstanding. Well, let's see. I got Nicholas County, Clay County tonight, boys. Lost a tough one, 57. Or I'm sorry, 63-55. I'll get it right here in a minute. Boys went 0-2 this week. They lost big time at the shootout to AAA Lincoln County earlier in the week. The Lady Panthers won at Nicholas County Tuesday night. That was 57-47. So they're 17-2 overall. Tomorrow is the ladies' side of the LKC Night of Champions, and they so that's going to be big doings up there at Parkersburg South this year, and then they have a 3-point shootout and a foul shooting contest and a whole bunch of games going on. And the Lady Panthers will play Ravenswood for the LKC Championship at 7:30 tomorrow evening. Of course, Clay County is number 7 in AP polls, and Ravenswood's number 8. So that would be a bang-up ball game for sure.
It sounds like it's going to be an excellent week ahead. Of course, looking a little bit further ahead, Tuesday night you'll make the trip to visit Coach Marone and the Tulsa Lady Rebels, and then next Friday down to Madison, down Corridor G Route 119 to take on Scott.
Play Scott, yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So,
and, hey, sectional's just around the corner. Hey,
it gets here too fast sometimes.
Oh yeah, it did, didn't it? Well, I think my grandmother once said that February had the least number of days in it. Was the shortest month of the year, but living-wise, it was the longest month of the year. So
well,
still hanging in there.
Exactly. Hey, TG, always a pleasure. Again, like I said, we missed you last week. We'll allow you to make the trip back from Webster Springs. Well, that's fine. I understand.
I'll make up for it.
All right, as long as you got a good excuse.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right.
Okay.
That's TG Griffith, WYAP, Clay County, and always a pleasure to talk to him. James Collier is in Greenville, North Carolina. He's been covering Marshall softball. He's usually with us, but he spent the last 2 weeks in the Carolinas. And James, first off, your impression after hearing of the 16 threes made by Independence High School junior guard Chloe Lane earlier this week.
Well, I saw the tweets and then the flood of text messages start coming through the basketball night text message thing, and the funny part was when I saw the score come through and the points that she put together, the first thing it said was, did anybody else shoot the basketball? And it was kind of a laughing thought, but yeah, that's pretty fabulous. 16 threes in a ball game. I don't care what level that you're playing or who it is. That's pretty daggone special, and kudos to her for coming out and doing that. I got to listen to the interview of her, and again, it's Independence is a program that they really struggled this year, and for her as a captain to really step up and try to keep this team going when they've gone out and really been the whipping post for whatever team they've played, but continue to play the game, and that's what you like to hear. You like to hear student athletes, don't worry about the score. You know, obviously everybody wants to win, but step up, be a leader on the floor, go out and compete every night because, as you said, Ryan, you don't play these things on paper, and crazier things can happen on any given night.
So, James, last week we were giving you a hard time because your game was delayed a little bit, softball game down in Charleston, South Carolina, because of frost, and the field was actually frozen. And this week, it's 23 degrees right now in Huntington, just outside of our studios here on Basketball Night in West Virginia. You're 27 in Greenville, North Carolina right now. Aren't you supposed to be going south for warm weather?
Yeah, that's the goal, is to go south for warm weather. Last night we played East Carolina to open up the. You'll get a kick out of the name of the tournament this weekend. It's the East Carolina University Pirate Snow Invitation. We've been kind of kidding around, saying, okay, let's take the snow out of this invitational and keep this cold weather away. But 50 degrees at first pitch last night. We had winds sustained at 15 to 20. We were getting gusts of 30 to 35. About the bottom of the second inning, it started raining. By the fourth inning, we had sheet rain coming out of right field across the field into left field, and we dropped 11 degrees by the time we finished up in the ninth inning. Yes, I said the ninth inning. We had to play 2 extra innings last night for Marshall to have a come-from-behind win over East Carolina 5-4.
Well, and the good news is it's supposed to be 52 tomorrow. The bad news is Marshall plays at 9 a.m.
Yeah, we play at 9 a.m. First thing in the morning, and it's funny. Our schedule has changed. This is now our 4th schedule change since before we even left town. That's the crazy thing. We were originally scheduled to play on Sunday, and that changed before we left. And we got a phone call. It was late Wednesday afternoon saying, "Be ready. We're probably leaving at 8:00 tonight." So we left Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, drove to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, spent the night there, and then made the trek on over to Greenville Thursday afternoon. But, frigid temperatures set to move in here tomorrow. And when I say frigid for this area, I mean frigid. It's supposed to drop down to 19 tomorrow night. Then I think the high Sunday is 31 with those cold, gusty winds once again. So they canceled everything out for the tournament on Sunday, got everybody to play Thursday, and then doubling up Friday, Saturday. So they'll finish up the invitational tomorrow, but we're leaving cold, coming to colder temperatures from what I understand of what's supposed to happen tomorrow night in Huntington.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely wish you and the team safe travels back, and we look forward to getting you back inside the studios here, as you've been out gallivanting through the South on us, but I certainly look forward to having you back in studio coming up. And I know you got an early morning tomorrow, so I know we made you hold there for a little while, but we appreciate that as always, James. I know you understand from both sides of it how that works sometimes. And
oh yeah, always a busy time this time of year. A lot of games coming in. I saw some scores floating around. How about the big win tonight for the Hurricane Redskins, knocking off Huntington? I've had a chance to watch those Redskins in person. They're a special team, and you let those guys get shooting. Trey Dawson, JT Rogaszewski, man, they're a powerful 1-2 punch. The Ford kid was really good with the basketball. He could dribble, drive, kick it out to the waiting Dawson and Rogaszewski, but I don't think we've heard the last of those two teams. Those those two teams still have a destiny probably coming up later on this season. And then, of course, South Charleston, always powerful as well. Should be a fun run to March.
Absolutely. James, always a pleasure to talk with you. And, again, look forward to seeing you again here a week or so.
Yep. Guys, take care. We'll see you next week.
All right. That's James Collier. Now we've got to take a break. And then, Chris Kidd, I promise, we'll have you. WVOW. He had the call at Chapmanville Regional, Mingo Central, along with Joe Kinzer. We'll have Chris Kidd when we get back here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Special thanks tonight to all of our affiliates. We really appreciate all you guys broadcasting basketball Friday night in West Virginia throughout the Mountain State, including Power 92 Radio, 92.3 FM WIRCLP in Spencer, 97.9 FM WSPWLP in Parkersburg, 91.5 FM WRSG Middleburn, 106.7 FM WHFI Linside, 101.9 FM and 1290 AM WVOW in Logan, 90.7 FM WFGH Fort Gay, 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM WQAZLP Edmond, Beckley, 101.7 FM WYAPLP Clay, and 88.1 FM WMUL in Huntington. Cable subscribers can find Basketball Friday Night in Huntington on Comcast Channel 25 and Armstrong Digital Channel 204. Streaming online high-definition video can be found on our website, basketballnight.com, and on affiliate, rsnsports.com. Listen online with any computer or mobile device by going to basketballnight.com and click on Listen Live. Follow us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, at @hoops_roundup. Appreciate all the scores coming in and everybody out there that's part of the Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia family. We want you to become part of the show. Call us tonight. Toll free, 855-345-4709, 855-345-4709. Follow us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, at @hoops_roundup. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Coach Rick Marone, James Collier, and Ryan Epling.
10:52 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Rick Marone, and Bill Cornwell with you in studio. Big boys matchup in the Cardinal Conference tonight. Chapmanville Regional slows down what had been a heating up Mingo Central Ball Club, 43-40. And I listened to a lot of that game coming in. Chris Kidd, WVOW, was there. He was part of the broadcast team for that one. And Chris, Mingo Central started out, scored pretty easily on 5 of its first 6 trips down the floor, and then somebody put a lid on the basket, and Chapmanville Regional pretty much took care of them from there, and at least through the first half, and held on the second half.
Yeah, Mingo Central opened up, hitting 4 of their first 5 shots, opened up an 11-4 lead, and I was doing the game with WXCC out of Pikeville, Kentucky, Joe Kinzer and Pedro Ledger. Great guys who actually allowed me to be in on that broadcast. We had issues on getting a line hooked in up there, but thankfully they allowed me to be a part of it to kind of add some a different perspective on the ball game. But it was one of those beginnings where you're like, oh boy, here we go, because after Chapmanville had that just horrendous loss at the Civic Center on Tuesday afternoon where they fouled on a 3-point attempt with 0.8 seconds left, and Williamstown sent the game into overtime, you really wondered if that team was going to be able to respond after that. And right after that, Chapel went on a 20-0 run. Mingo Central scored 2 points in the second quarter, and the defense is what saved Chapmanville. And before the game started, Alan Hatcher even told his group, he says, this game can't get into the 70s and 80s. If it gets into the 70s and 80s, we're going to lose. But he said, if this game's in the 40s and 50s, that's where it has to be. That's our chance to win. And Chapmanville really concentrated themselves on taking care of the ball, limiting turnovers, forcing Mingo Central to start taking more outside shots, and did a nice job of keeping the Dixons out of the paint in the early going. But, you know, you saw it in the third quarter. You heard it in the third quarter, how lethal those two can be whenever they decide to turn on the jets, because Dikembe Dixon and Montrell Dixon were absolutely unstoppable that quarter, and that's what gave Chapmanville a lot of pause, thinking, oh, no, this could be, you know, one of those run-out quarters where they get back into it and take over the game. But they withstood the storm and were able to hang on.
Very impressive for Chapmanville Regional. And again, I got to listen to most of the second quarter on my way in. And by the way, one of my favorite things to do is listen to the ball games on WVOW coming up 152 from Wayne into the Basketball Friday Night studio, just to see what's going on in Logan County on any given Friday night. And it was the offensive rebounding and second chance opportunities that really made a difference, I felt, for Chapmanville Regional. It seemed as though, from what I understood from the call, that they were able to get Mingo Central to be a little over-aggressive, trying to block shots, get them out of position. Well, they didn't block the shot. Maybe the first shot didn't go, but they were out of position when it came to rebounding, and Chapmanville was getting some stickbacks.
I mean, first off, you can admit you just missed the soothing sounds of Chris Kidd on your radio dial.
Hey, Joe Kinder's a good friend, and Pedro Ledger's a good friend, too. So I was just like, wow. Listen to three of my favorites.
I thought it's the WMUL days, Ryan. I mean, I know you got to get your fix, but
you know how it goes.
But no, you hit it right on the head. It was really the big turning point in the second quarter. Was Chapmanville surprised me by going inside a lot. I mean, I didn't anticipate them to take a ton of outside shots either, but going right at the Dixons the way they did, who are two very aggressive shot blockers, and they put a few in the stands and off the backboard tonight. But Chapmanville was undeterred. They continued to come right at those two on the inside, knowing that they'd be over-aggressive, trying to block shots and get balls out of the paint. And that's whenever Chapmanville was able to attack. You know, you saw Jordan Wick get a couple of second-chance opportunities. Casto get a couple of second-chance opportunities. Ben Ike, I felt like, played even a better game tonight than he did against Scott last Friday night. He had 14 points, which is a season high for him, 9 rebounds, had a pair of block shots on the inside. And what was even more important for Chapmanville, Ben Ike looked healthy tonight. He looked more aggressive. He was battling on the inside against two really strong interior players. He didn't get pushed around like we've seen a few times this year, trying to maybe protect against that right shoulder getting bumped or hurt a little bit further. He played a phenomenal game tonight. You know, we talked about him last week and what he's been through and what he's been able to accomplish in just such a short amount of time of playing basketball. But he went toe-to-toe with two of the best players in AA tonight, and really, in some instances, outplayed the Dixon boys, who, you know, always put forth an amazing effort. But, you know, having Ben Ike on the inside this evening did wonders for Chapmanville, and I think that's what ended up propelling Chapmanville. And then they actually won the rebounding battle against Mingo by 6 tonight, which is something that you wouldn't have expected minus Ben Ike, such as in the first game.
Well, what impresses me about Chapmanville Regional is that perhaps this season there were some additional expectations after making the state tournament for the first time last year. It's been a little up and down. It's a team that's been hovering around 500 much of the season, but they put their head down, not in a bad way. I don't mean like got their heads down, but they put their head down and keep moving forward. Yes, there are tough nights like that one in that loss to Williamstown, where that 3, like you mentioned, on the foul right at the end of the game at the Charleston Civic Center, at the shootout at the Big House. But still moving forward. And when you put Mingo Central, Scott, and Chapmanville Regional, those 3 are about as even as you can get.
Yeah, and, you know, before I talk a little bit about that, you know, you touched on just the resiliency of this ball club. And, you know, there were a lot of expectations coming into this year. And, you know, oddly enough, Ryan, I mean, this is a stat that a lot of people are kind of surprised by whenever I say it. Chapmanville has not won 3 consecutive games all season long.
That's stunning with as good of a team as that is. But I think that's more of a reflection of how good the schedule is too.
Definitely. I mean, you look through their schedule. I mean, it's top to bottom. I mean, you have a few tough AAA teams in there. Williamstown's ranked number 5 in Class Single A. You're going up against the Pocas, the Mingos, the Scots, who are all in the top 10 in Class AA. So it's definitely not been a season where Chapmanville's just fallen apart at inopportune times. You know, a lot of people maybe look at that Herbert Hoover loss and say, what happened? Well, Herbert Hoover's got a good team, and that night they just shot the lights out of the gym. I believe it was close to 60%. They hit 11 threes in the game. I mean, Hoover was no Chloe Lane, but, 11 threes is impressive in a ball game. And, they've had just some odd nights like that. But, the fact that they're able to come back after so many difficult losses and so many difficult performances like that, I mean, I really felt like that loss on Tuesday was going to set them back for maybe even a couple of games before they got it back. They said that Casto was, inconsolable in the locker room. You had a lot of players that came out of there just kind of like, my goodness, how did that happen? And then going in on Friday to face off in what could have been possibly a showdown for the 1 seed in the section, I mean, that just shows the type of leadership Alan Hatcher has with that team, the type of leadership that Trey Dalton and the rest of those seniors have with that ball club. And this type of win tonight could give them a big push heading forward. I mean, because now you're talking about who's going to end up with that top spot. And that is a big deal in this section, because if you don't have that 1 seed, that means you've got to go through 2 of these monsters in order to get out of the section. And Chapmanville was able to do that last year, but they won both those games by a combined 5 points. And I think the last thing you want to do is have to beat Scott and Mingo to get back just for a chance to get to the state tournament, or any way you want to put that in that round robin. So Chapmanville has the lesser record of these 3 right now at 10-8, but the thing that Chapmanville has to their advantage is that they're now 6-1 against sectional foes. Mingo Central's 5-2, and the last I checked, Scott is 4-2, and Mingo Central and Scott still have to play each other next Friday night. Now, if Chapmanville can close these last 4 games at 3-1, 4-0, something like that, I think it's going to be hard for these voters to sit there and say, well, even though their record isn't technically as good, it's hard to ignore what they've done against their sectional rivals.
Absolutely, and should be a lot of fun coming down the stretch. Of course, Chapmanville Regional will be back in action next week. Wesley Christian coming up on Monday, Sissonville on Tuesday, and then a trip to Wayne next Friday. Hey, you should come on by the studios here on your way back home.
Hey, I may have to do that, actually. I was thinking about that. I said I'm going to be in Epling country on Friday night, and I want to stop out and see you guys at some point. I felt really bad last time because you invited me up, and I said, I don't know where it's at. You said, you worked here for 2 years. What are you talking about?
Right, yeah, you were 7 blocks away in Huntington eating dinner at the time, and I was like, Chris, come on now. Hey, Chris, we got to run. We're right up against the break, top of the hour, but always a pleasure again, and look forward to hearing from you at the least, and perhaps seeing you next week.
Oh, definitely, guys. Thank you all again. You guys have a good night.
All right, that's Chris Kidd, WVOW. He had Chapmanville Regionals win over Mingo Central tonight. We'll step aside and take a break. We'll come back. We'll have a scoreboard update, and we will talk with our standout athlete of the week. That's when Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia continues here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
High school basketball action. West Virginia's heating up as the teams focus on a trip to the state championship in Charleston. Stay up to date with your local teams and their progress all season long with Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia for 3 hours every Friday night from 9 to midnight. Listen online or on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State, including Power 92 Radio, 92.3 FM WYRC-LP in Spencer, 97.9 FM WSPW-LP Parkersburg, 91.5 FM WRSG in Middleburg, 106.7 FM WHFI Linside, 101.9 FM and 1290 AM WVOW Logan, 90.7 FM WFGH Fort Gay, 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM WQAZLP Edmond Beckley, 101.7 FM WYAPLP Clay, and 88.1 FM WMUL in Huntington. Cable subscribers can find Basketball Friday Night in the Huntington area on Comcast Channel 25, Armstrong Digital Channel 204. Streaming online high-definition video can be found on our website, basketballnight.com, and on affiliate rsnsports.com. Listen online with any computer or mobile device by going to basketballnight.com and click on Listen Live. Join us online, vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight, and then we'll share the voting results. What's the most all-around competitive region in West Virginia high school basketball, both girls and boys this season? Vote Region 1, 2, 3, or 4. Again, you've got till 11:45 tonight at basketballnight.com.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Coach Rick Marone, James Collier, and Ryan Epling.
11:05 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with you till midnight here on the Fast Break Sports Network. I'm Ryan Epling. Rick Marone and Bill Cornwell are also in studio with me tonight. We will hear from our standout athlete of the week in just a moment, but first, I'm going to give you the latest check of our basketballnight.com scoreboard. Looking for scores? Look no more. Visit basketballnight.com. It was the Knights of Cabell Midland in boys action beating St. Albans 60-57. Brooke beats Indian Creek, Ohio 66-45. Also tonight, Hedgesville over Spring Mills 57-50. It was Hurricane defeating Huntington 66-65 tonight at Hurricane. They get the big win in that rematch of last year's state championship game. The Jefferson Cougars rout the Washington Patriots tonight 84-53, the final in that one. Also tonight, Martinsburg defeats Musselman 76-62. It was Morgantown over Wheeling Park 58-43. The Spring Valley Timberwolves get a win 83-61 over Nitro. Jacob Kilgore becomes the school's all-time leading scorer. Congratulations to Smiley on that one. Parkersburg defeats Ripley tonight in double overtime 63-60. Big Reds go to Ripley and get the win. Also tonight, George Washington routs Point Pleasant 67-29. And South Charleston, the top-ranked team in Class AAA, over Winfield. They go on the road and win tonight 97-54. Class AA scores tonight. Chapmanville Regional defeats Mingo Central 43-40. It was Man over Mount View 75-57. Hillbillies get the road win. Oak Glen defeats Toronto, Ohio 66-48. Poca remains unbeaten. The Dots beat Sissonville by 19 on the road tonight 60-41. It was a tight one at the pit in Ravenswood, but Parkersburg Catholic hits a three with 6 seconds to go and wins over the Red Devils 51-50. Also a final score from last night, Scott defeats Tulsa 92-48 in boys action. Also a final tonight, Harrison Central Ohio beats Weir 78-56. Class Single A finals, number 1 Wheeling Central wins a showdown with Charleston Catholic 50-44. Also tonight, Richwood over Fayetteville 70-59. Greater Beckley Christian defeats Tug Valley 47-45 at the Raleigh County Armory. Isaiah Francis hits 2 free throws with about 5 seconds left as the Crusaders avenge an earlier loss this season in Naugatuck by beating Tug Valley. Also tonight, final score, the West Virginia Hometown Invitational Tournament Division II Championship. The Union Tigers defeat the Harmon Panthers 58-47, so they'll take the championship back with them to Grant County. Also tonight, in girls action, it was Tug Valley defeating Greater Beckley Christian 53-45. It was Mountain Ridge, Maryland with an upset over Kaiser 51-39. The Golden Tornado fall on the road, just their second loss of the year, both of them to out-of-state opponents. Lincoln upsets number 9 Bridgeport 59-57. The Cougars get the win tonight. And one other final score in girls action, St. Joe defeats Notre Dame 71-29. St. Joe hasn't lost an in-state game in about 4 or 5 years now, it seems. And guys, we got to go right back to the phones. Stephen Harrison of Sissonville High School is our standout athlete of the week. First off, Stephen, congratulations on that honor tonight.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and the Indians this season are 12-7, a young team, but you are one that Coach Skeen says kind of exemplifies that program. I understand you didn't start playing basketball until November of your freshman year.
Yep, that's right.
So why did you decide to play basketball?
I don't know. I feel like Coach Skeen just really wanted me to come out, so I knew that I was going to work at it, and that's what I did to get where I am now.
Well, you're on a team that starts 4 sophomores and you as a senior, so now they're kind of looking to you for leadership. Talk about being in that leader role. How has that affected you this season?
Coming into the season, I knew that I was going to be the only senior that was going to get legitimate playing time, so I knew that I had to prepare myself to take the leadership role. And I think now as the season's progressing, the sophomores, they look up to me as a leader, and I feel like I'm doing my job leading them to these wins.
12-7 on the season. A tough loss tonight. Polka's really good. A 60-41 loss tonight, but still 12-7 now on the season. And Sissonville is one of those teams that, I mean, you don't want to look too far ahead. I know it's your senior year. You want to enjoy it, but postseason's, fast approaching. And how do you feel your team's playing as we start to head down the home stretch?
I think everything's really clicking at the right time. And we know that our section is really tough and our region is definitely really tough. And I think we'll be prepared going into the postseason.
Well, Stephen, we definitely appreciate you taking time out to speak with us tonight. I know kind of a long day for you with a full day of school and then a ball game and then visiting with us here tonight. But you are our standout athlete of the week this week, and congratulations on that honor.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, that's Stephen Harrison, Sissonville High School senior. And what amazes me, guys, as we anytime we bring on high school kids, you were talking about kids who are 15 to 18 years old, some are a little more nervous and then some are a little more talkative. But it's the attitude. All of them are so respectful. I hate being called sir because it makes me feel old again. But I appreciate it. I take no disrespect from that. I appreciate it. But still, it amazes me that these kids seem to have things in a proper perspective, whereas when I was at that age, I don't know that I did.
Well, I think a lot of times young people get a bad rap. I think there's a lot of young people that are doing a lot of great things. And, just tonight we've talked to several of them, and they've got their priorities straight and talking about being a leader. I mean, there's a lot of things you learn in school, in the classroom, but there's a lot of things that you learn in extracurricular activities. And for him to have picked the game up just as a freshman and then also to accept the leadership role, I can tell you that that accountability and being responsible and being the only senior, as he said, it's getting substantial time. A lot of guys would run away from that, but he's embraced it, and I think that says a lot more about him as a person, even more so than a basketball player.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologize if I am. You quarterbacked what is arguably the best football program in high school in West Virginia at Cerrito Canova. That's a leadership position, even in a wing T-based type of offense, and you were a winner, a big winner. How has that affected you going on through life and now as a coach?
Well, I tell you, It's funny you asked that. I actually ran into a guy that was at our school visiting and doing some things for the State Department. He was from Greenbrier West, and he looked at my name badge, and he said, "You're not the Rick Marone that played at CK back in the 80s." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who are you?" He said, "Well, I played at Greenbrier West, and we played you all 3 years in a row in the playoffs." And he said, "And you all got the better of us." He was the center on the team. He was in the same grade as me, and we had such a great time reminiscing and talking about things. And he's actually a football coach at Greenbrier West, Coach McClung, and he's
Louis
a great,
McClung,
great guy. And those are memories, and we were both having very vivid memories, even though we're both pushing 50 now. But I think, Ryan, that it has enabled myself to learn about being part of a team, what hard work will bring you, and accomplishing goals that you set forth and you have to work for, because, in a society where it's always a me thing, and it's always about short-term rewards, and having been around the program that Coach Harmon has at Wayne, that is a long-term process that yields great benefit. But a lot of people, you see it, I see it, I lived it, but it's behind the scenes and the work that goes in, and the satisfaction is really about the work. And just to be a part of it, I think it enabled me that I could do whatever I wanted to do when I got out of school, and it's really shaped me. And my coaches that I had, Coach Ward, Coach Craycraft, and Coach Barry Scragg, impacted me for the rest of my life in those years that I got to work with them.
I was just getting ready to say, I don't know if at the time Carl Ward realized that he was helping to set the stage for a successful girls basketball program. At the time, but still good memories from those guys, and of course that school now part of Spring Valley High School.
There's only one thing that would have been worse: if he'd set you up on a career to be a soccer coach. then he would know he would have been a failure in your case.
Well, I tell you, I think coaches, they're easy targets, and I'm one of them. I'm sure there's a lot of people that think I'm smart, and there's a lot of people that think I'm not very smart, and I'm probably closer to the bottom end than the top. But coaching is almost a thankless job, and I don't want anybody to feel sorry for coaches, because we do it because we love it. But I think just like we talk about, the officials, and I gave Bo a hard time tonight, but just in fun. But they have a thankless job too. But all the coaches that have shaped all of us, Ryan, you as well. Sports teaches you a lot of things that I think go unnoticed, and the reason I do it and love it, and we all love doing what we do with sports, is because it does have so much involved in it.
I don't think it's a I know we got to go to break, but I don't think it's a coincidence. I played baseball for George Brumfield, who's a national high school
Hall of Famer.
Baseball coach, Hall of Famer, yeah.
Hall of Famer.
You played football for Carl Ward, who is won 9 state championships in West Virginia, and and then here we are hosting a radio show, and we're around high school sports, and you've got a very successful girls basketball program, long term. Highly successful, and I think a lot of times you start to realize that you can do things that maybe people around you might not feel as confident that they can do just because of where you're from.
And I think the young people that we get to talk to on a weekly basis, they exemplify the best that West Virginia has to offer, and it's through high school basketball that we all love. And Bill, I tell you what, we've heard some amazing things tonight from some young people that really are beyond their years.
Let me talk about that young man we just had on. I mean, you talk about just unbelievable the way that young man handles himself. What's he, 17, 18 years old? He's a senior. Coach Skeen and the Sissonville team has really struggled this year. He's got a lot of young kids. But that young man, you can tell, has been through the crucible. And he's become that leader, and he's become that standout guy. And, of course, we heard the feature in him. I mean, he heads the DECA group there. And I would say just the way he handled himself and just the vibe you get from him, watch out for that young man. He's going to be a big success down the road.
I want to make sure that we keep a list of our standout athletes of the week, and like maybe 10 years from now, we see what they're doing, which offices they hold in state government,
when they literally
which
roll
corporations they run.
Yeah, and I was going to say when they literally have to roll us in here to do the show.
Yeah,
they better start working on the ramp right now.
Yeah, those are going to be some successful future leaders here in West Virginia, and from a state perspective, hopefully we can keep them all in state, but understandably, sometimes that doesn't work out for the best for each person. So hopefully that does. We're talking basketball, right? We got to take a break. We'll be back with more basketball Friday night in West Virginia here in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
It's the Daily Hoops Roundup, part of BasketballNight.com. Every day we recap the day's scores just for you on all the teams in West Virginia. We send followers a tweet at midnight with a link to the Daily Hoops Roundup. You can also visit BasketballNight.com and just click on Daily Hoops Roundup for all the day's scores. We'd like for you to become part of our score reporting crew, and thanks to all of you that are doing that now. Join us on Twitter, text, email. You can even call us. Twitter, @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. Go to our website, basketballnight.com. You'll find out all the ways you can connect with us to get us scores from your team's games. And we want to hear your scores every day so we can send it out and make it part of the Daily Hoops Roundup. Call us tonight toll-free, 855-345-4709, 855-345-4709. You can also text the show with scores at 304-249-4924, 304-249-4924. Send scores by email, scores@basketballnight.com, scores@basketballnight.com. A little bit of time left before 11:45. So you've got time to vote in this week's poll. We want to know what's the most all-around competitive region in West Virginia high school basketball, both boys and girls this season. Vote Region 1, 2, 3, or 4. You'll find it all at basketballnight.com.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Coach Rick Marone, James Collier, and Ryan Epling.
11:21 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Rick Marone, Bill Cornwell with you. Of course, James Collier, who's usually with us down in Greenville, North Carolina, covering Marshall softball as they are in the Pirate Snow Invitational at East Carolina.
Hopefully he's asleep by now since he's got a 9 o'clock game tomorrow.
Yeah, he's going to be on the air at 8:30. So he's got about 8 hours or so till I can count. That's 9 hours until he's got to get on the air. But nonetheless, guys, last week one of the things we talked about was the MSAC appeared as though it would be changing somewhat. There were 4 schools who publicly stated they wished to leave the conference. Those 4 schools: Nitro, Ripley, Princeton, and Parkersburg. The MSAC held a meeting earlier this week, and Bill, in a lot of ways, those 4 schools are currently being held captive.
Well, the story changed. Of course, the 4 became 5.
With Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson joined the fray. So we had Princeton, Woodrow Wilson, Nitro, Ripley, and Parkersburg all petitioning to leave the Mountain State Athletic Conference. They had the meeting on Wednesday. Now, these are principal votes, although I know ADs basically were the proxy voters in most cases. The principals didn't actually go to the meeting. But none of the 5 schools got the required 2/3 vote. They needed 10 votes to be granted a status to be able to leave. In other words, they still would have probably had 2 years to work their way out of the league, play 2 years of football. But that is not going to happen. Now, Nitro, after that vote, presented their letter saying that they wanted to begin the process of leaving the league. And from what I spoke to some Nitro folks tonight, actually, and they're anticipating that they're going to be going into AA when the next reclassification takes place. If that's the case, they'll be leaving the league in the first place. It is a AAA league. It's not a mixed bag league. So if they go to AA, they're out. Now, if they stay AAA and they want to leave, and if they want to leave immediately, 2 things happen. They have a $5,000 fine they must pay, and they must face a 2-year moratorium as far as scheduling any MSAC teams. In other words, they couldn't play St. Albans, they couldn't play Capital or Cabell Midland or Hurricane. That would really do a disservice. It'd make your scheduling rather hard. So Nitro said, yeah, we're going to leave. We haven't heard Parkersburg, Woodrow Wilson, Princeton, or Ripley yet if they're going to give that same letter and say we want to begin the process of leaving. As of now, they're still in the league. Again, they can give that letter and start the ball rolling to leaving, but they can't leave immediately. And right now, they even have not indicated they're going to even do that.
It's interesting in the way that the MSAC operates. I remember 2006. I did the radio. Bill and I did radio for Spring Valley football that year.
We did,
and that was a rough year for the Timberwolves. That's not the point, though.
That was an over.
Yeah, they did. Spring Valley did not play Huntington, which is the closest AAA school to it. Did not play Hurricane, but played Princeton, Woodrow Wilson, and Greenbrier East all in conference games. That makes no sense. Also had a non-conference game at John Marshall in Moundsville. Made no sense. Didn't play Huntington. Passed them 4 or 5 times to go play. So I just think the MSAC has to look itself in the mirror and maybe make some structural changes within the league before it tries to maybe impose such harsh sanctions. I mean, they make it almost impossible to leave.
By the way, I want to correct myself. It's a 4-year death penalty. It's 4 years where you can't schedule any MSAC teams if you leave early, decide to leave early. So that's what these schools are facing. Now, Parkersburg, I don't think it's going to be a big deal because if they're looking to join the OVAC, which is what it looks like they're going to do, they're going to have some good partners there. Princeton, a little tougher. Woodrow Wilson, a little tougher situation. Don't know about Ripley as well. So some big decisions from those schools, but Nitro, again, they've got the ball rolling, and we'll see how that plays out.
Well, Bill, and being not as versed as you and Ryan are in this, is that an all-sports ban? Because there's ramifications for basketball. You talk about some rivalries ending in a hurry. I mean, if it's a 4-year ban of participating against those teams in all sports, you've got some losses, some very, very, very good matchups.
Are you going to tell me Nitro and St. Albans can't play?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they got to revisit it, as you said, Ryan.
It is an all-sports ban.
Okay.
Now, the one thing that was still in play, if they'd got any of them had gotten the 2/3 vote, they still would have had to play MSAC teams for 2 years. That's where my 2-year thing got into my mind there. So they still would have been sort of in the league for 2 more years, but they wouldn't be paying the $5,000 and they wouldn't be facing that scheduling ban. So but of course, all that came about because of the departure of Lincoln County and Greenbrier East about 2-3 years ago. Caused a lot of hard feelings and caused the league to say we need to get tough on anybody that wants to leave. And boy, did they get tough.
Well, guys, back to basketball and something that occurred. We talk about you go to the gym any given night and you might see something that you've never seen before. Chloe Lane and the 16 threes, incredible. But there was a play in the Wayne-Sissonville game last Tuesday night at Wayne that got onto ESPN.com, got onto most of the major video distributors in the country. About an 78 to 80-foot shot at the end of the third quarter. We're going to show it right now on our web stream on basketballnight.com as Seth Napper gets the rebound, throws it to Grant Ferguson, and there he throws the shot in from about 78 feet away. Now, Sissonville went on to win that ball game last week. We're going to show that one more time. But on the phone with us is the guy who made that. Do we want to call it a shot attempt, or we just want to call it taking a heave at the rim and getting to fall? Grant Ferguson joins us now. Grant, when did you know it had a chance to go in?
Well, I mean, as soon as Seth got that ball, I called for it, just hoping I could get a shot at it. I grabbed it and I launched it out there, and about halfway there, I looked at it and I I said, you know, this thing's got a chance. And that's what I thought to myself. And it went in, and just the place went crazy.
Well, what many people may not understand is that's kind of a low ceiling at Wayne, too, and that kind of makes that distance of a shot a little bit more difficult. Tell me, though, you were probably more well-known as the 3-year starting quarterback. It looked like a football-type throw. Did that have any help in making that shot go?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I got it, you can see on the film I had the quarterback form, I guess you could say. I mean, everybody was, you know, everybody was messing with me out there, you know, at school and stuff, you know, saying that's why I made it. So, I mean, that was pretty fun to talk to everybody about, and it was just a big laugh, really.
Well, the YouTube video now has 182,929 views. Think about that for a minute.
I know, that's crazy. I mean, I never would have thought it would have got, you know, that big, you know, just one shot. But as soon as it got out there on YouTube, I mean, every day it was just growing and growing and growing. And then it got to ESPN, and that video on YouTube just, I mean, it took fire. So, I mean, it was pretty amazing to watch that happen.
Like I said, any night out, you go any given thing, you might see something unique or special at a ball game. Now, tonight, your ball club was at home, lost by 3 to Herbert Hoover. Very close game. Another tight loss, and I know that it's been a season of a little up and down on the basketball floor for you guys this year. Just tell me about the game tonight.
I mean, it was a close game, but I mean, the whole time they came out, they were pounding it down low, trying to get that, and they ended up hitting a couple shots outside to pull ahead a little bit. We fought back and kept battling, and they ended up getting ahead by 3 right there at the end for a couple. You know, we had to do a desperation foul, and they made both of them, so that put them up by 3 points, and we came down with a just shot to do it, and I got the ball and threw it over to Colby, and it didn't convert. But I mean, we're almost there. You know, we got another couple more games to prove ourselves, and then section will start. Hopefully, we can start rolling then. Hopefully, we can peak and keep on going then.
Well, Grant, we certainly appreciate you taking time out to talk with us tonight, and congratulations on making that shot and all the attention that it brings with it as well, and we wish you the best of luck moving forward.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Wayne High School's Grant Ferguson, who made that 78-footer at Pioneer Gym. Again, Coach Marone, you can attest. That's a low-hanging ceiling. Balls get stuck up in there all the time. It's almost impossible to actually make that angle.
Yeah, and if you look at the film, and I encourage people to do that, it's a bank shot that goes in. Yeah. It's not on the fly, and you almost have to take the low trajectory. So that almost adds even more difficulty to it because you have to lower the trajectory, and he used it right off the board. And I do think his football training had something to do with it.
It had to be the perfect angle
natural.
off the glass, too.
Exactly.
Because if it doesn't have the perfect angle off the glass, it just jumps right off the front of the rim.
Mm-hmm.
Dead backboard will do it for you every time. Right now, we got to step aside and take a break. When we come back, we'll get a score check, and it will be cause time. Rick Kozlowski from the Martinsburg Journal will join us when we come back here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
High school basketball action in West Virginia is heating up as teams focus on a trip to the state championship in Charleston. Stay up to date with your local team and its progress all season long with Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia for 3 hours every Friday night from 9 to midnight. Listen online or on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. Hear sports writers, broadcasters, coaches, players, and your calls recapping your team's game. Visit basketballnight.com for more details on how you can become part of the show. Follow us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. Thanks to everyone tonight that called, sent texts, tweets, and emails. We appreciate you being part of the show and helping us cover all of the high school basketball in West Virginia. Once again, follow us on Twitter @hoops_roundup. @hoops_roundup. And a shout out to News Radio 910 WLTV. Tweeting us tonight: Wes McKinney, Lisa Hunter, Coach Eddie, Braden Noon, Buddy Forbes, Coach Andre, Dave Morrison, Coach Eddie, Bradley Dameron, CJ Solskjaer, new follower tonight, Chloe Lane, and C. Wade 3. Special thanks to all of our affiliates tonight. We appreciate each and every one of the radio stations that cover us. And if you know a station that would like to have basketball Friday night in West Virginia, drop us a line and let us know. Head over to our website. You've got a few minutes yet to vote in our poll, basketballnight.com.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Coach Rick Marone, James Collier, and Ryan Epling.
11:35 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia as we start to wind down already the 10th week of this show. Where does it go? That's the question. But, again, what a show we've had tonight when you think about it. Talked to a girl who hit 16 threes in a game, which is the second most ever in the country, than a state record. We talked to a guy who just made an 80, basically a 78 to 80 foot shot because the court at Wayne's 84 feet. I would say generously that's about a 78 foot shot from the front of his front foot, and Grant Ferguson made that last week. And those were just little instances. Well, I mean, the 16 threes isn't an instance, but still. It's a game that maybe without this show you don't hear as much about.
Yeah, and our standout athlete of the week, a tremendous young man, just a packed show.
Now, Coach Marone will have a scoreboard in just a second, but before he does that, and before we get to Rick Kozlowski, because I hope Rick's able to see us on the video stream on basketballnight.com, I've got to make an addition to the swag table here. This is a Wayne High School basketball jersey, circa 1988, I believe. Now, unfortunately, these jerseys were not worn very much. I'll just put it over the referee's jersey. That we'll get rid of Bo's, the side of Bo. But nonetheless, this jersey made of nylon/polyester, sewn on numbers and lettering, and that jersey's about as old as I am in many cases. And it's in great shape, and it can be worn today, Coach.
Yeah, I tell you what, they don't make them like that anymore, and you're exactly right. I know folks that are watching on home, and if you're listening, just take my word for it. I mean, this thing has got some life left to it, and our post-game pickup game, Ryan may be slipping into the number 22. I can see that happening.
That was a hand-me-down that I did get to wear in middle school, and as you can imagine, it was very, very much too big for me at the time. Anyway, right now, we're going to turn it over here to Coach Marone for checking the basketballnight.com scoreboard.
Looking for scores? Look no more. It's basketballnight.com scoreboard update. In Class AAA tonight in boys action, Cabell Midland 60, St. Albans 57. The Brook Bruins get a 20-point win over Indian Creek, Ohio, 65-45. Hedgesville 57, Spring Mills 50. Hurricane, a huge win over Huntington High, 66-65. The Jefferson Cougars, 84. Washington, 53. Martinsburg gets a 76-62 win over Musselman. The Applemen fall tonight, not far from the tree. Morgantown, 58. Wheeling Park, 43. Spring Valley rolls 83-61 over Nitro. Wyoming East, 79-55 over Oak Hill. Parkersburg, 63-60 over Ripley. George Washington, 67-29 winners over Point Pleasant. South Charleston, 97. Winfield, 54. Class AA tonight in boys basketball. Gilmer County, 58. Braxton County, 39. A low-scoring Cardinal Conference affair. Chapmanville, 43. Mingo Central, 40. Frankfort gets a 73-70 win over Northern Garrett, Maryland. Herbert Hoover, 54. Wayne, 51. The Man Hillbillies, 75. Mount View, 57. Toronto, Ohio falls to Oak Glen. The Golden Bears, 66-48 winners tonight. Poca, 60. Sissonville 41, the number 1 Dots continue their unbeaten streak. Parkersburg Catholic 51, Ravenswood 50. Wirt County 59, Ritchie County 47. Last night, Scott gets a 92-48 win over Tulsa in Cardinal Conference action. Harrison Central out of Ohio, 78-56 winners over Weir. In Class A boys, Wheeling Central gets a win over Charleston Catholic, 50-44. Richwood 70, Fayetteville 59. Greater Beckley Christian 47, Tug Valley 45. Isaiah Francis 2 free throws for Greater Beckley in the last 5 seconds of that one. Gilmer County gets a 58-39 win over Braxton County. The Union Tigers 58, Harmon 47. Championship in the Division II Hometown Invitational goes to the Union Tigers. Tonight in girls action, Greater Beckley 53, Tug Valley 45. Mountain Ridge 51, Kaiser 39 in an upset. Calhoun County drops Hannon 37-32. Lincoln, a big-time win in Class AA, 59-57 over Bridgeport. In girls action, Ryan's Paw Paw Pirates get a big-time win over Union, 62-37. The victory for them. North Marion 76-52 over Preston. Fairmont Senior rolls over Robert C. Byrd 69-31. And finally, St. Joe, number 1 in Class A big win over Notre Dame out of Clarksburg, 71-29. That's your scoreboard update from basketballnight.com.
You don't just walk into Morgan County and get out Paw Paw with a win. I'll tell you that right now. Last week on the show, I said that we would have Josh DeLauder this week. I spoke with him. He wanted to put off that appearance until at least next week. But we're still working on getting the exact time for that. But that was 15 years ago now that the Paw Paw Pirates made it to Charleston and the Class Single A state basketball tournament, and he scored about 2,800 points, I think. I'll have all that exact information for you, but the state's all-time leading scorer, and we'll catch up with him, if not next week, in the coming weeks, because I want to make sure I've got some time to talk with him. Now, you know who wrote an outstanding piece about Josh DeLauder about 10 years ago now was Rick Kozlowski of the Martinsburg Journal. He joins us now. He was at the Washington-Jefferson game tonight. And, Rick, we've got 3 things to talk about. Let's first...
Baby, you a song, you make me want to roll my windows down and cruise.
The Florida Georgia line for Rick Kozlowski tonight. You've earned an intro, my friend. You've earned an intro.
And I definitely appreciate that. Now, I wish I were at the Florida Georgia line, or maybe a little further south, as you guys probably do as well.
Yes, it was 8 degrees here this morning. Little chilly. But
I think you should wear that Wayne 22 jersey outside with no jacket tonight.
I'm not that brave of a man, Rick Kozlowski. Or maybe I'm smarter than that. I don't know. There's a good argument that could be made against that, though. But, Rick, nonetheless, first, I have to ask. You're one of our sources for scores that we follow on Twitter, and we got to noticing that you were spelling out the numbers instead of using the numerals tonight in your tweets.
Well, I blame that on what my wife calls my Fisher-Price phone. For whatever reason, when I tried to hit numerals, they were showing up as symbols. And short of throwing the phone off the wall, I'm like, well, I'm just going to spell them out. or maybe it's just a whole new twist on things. How's that?
I kind of like it in a way. It's unique, and you actually have to sit there and read the score, and you kind of internalize it a little bit better.
That's just the phone factor, if you will.
All right. So how about Jefferson tonight? Very impressive in their win over Washington.
Well, certainly Washington is not the team it was last year. This was the first time I got to see Washington this season, and I'm looking at a couple of the new uniform numbers. I'm like, well, that's not Dominic Newman in number 10. That's not Kendall Smith in 32. Yeah, they're struggling. That's a team, and it was also a team was missing 3 regular players today. Two by illness, 1 by injury, and their head coach was also sick today. And of course, they're playing a Jefferson team that is pretty good.
That's a bad combination too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of interesting. You mentioned. I know we've talked about, or you mentioned last week about getting Josh DeLauder on, and he actually came up in a discussion I was having with one of the assistant coaches at Jefferson before the game, just kind of talking about points, and I actually mentioned the thing about the young lady who hit the 16 three-pointers, and because he was asking me if I knew of any recent AAA teams that had a pair of 20-point scorers. And I start scratching my head, and being of the advanced age where some things kind of get forgotten, I'm like, I don't really recall teams with a pair of 20-point scorers. You have teams that have one, and then you might have some other double-figure scorers, but two of them. Do you guys know of any?
Not right offhand. I know that Spring Valley has Jacob Kilgore at 25, and Greg Herbert's in the teens.
I was going to say Greg Herbert's in the high teens, and he's pushing it, so it's pretty close.
That's Spring Valley, but that's rare.
Very rare.
And those two are highly relied on. It's not; those two have to score for that team to be successful.
Well, and I think that happens for Jefferson as well. When you got Khalil Jenkins and Jalen Smith, who are both around the 20-point range, and Jenkins had 30 tonight, only played 3 quarters. Smith had 15, played 3 quarters, and it last quarter kind of looked like a JV game for the most part. Both teams emptied their benches, and the assistant coach who was running Washington said, "Well, I looked down my bench and I saw 4 sophomores and 3 freshmen. And when they come out on the floor to in mop-up duty, I thought they were 6th graders actually."
It's amazing how fast things can change, though, in the course of a year. And Rick, we're right up against a break, but I do want to reflect here real fast. Josh DeLauder comes up on this show every now and then. Again, it was 15 years ago this week, on February 9th, 2000. He set the state's all-time scoring record when he broke it against Mount Savage, Maryland, on a layup. That gave him 2,661 career points. He finished,
I was there.
Yeah, and he finished his career with 2,965. But yeah, 15 years ago this week, and
it was an amazing time in Pawpaw that year. It seemed like everybody knew how to get to Pawpaw.
Yeah,
there were media from all over the state and places were coming to watch him, and you could not find a seat. Actually, you could find a seat in the gym, maybe, if you went into the closet and pulled one out. The gym is not very big. Yeah. There's not a great deal of bleachers, and the bleachers were just packed tightly. And then people would grab chairs out of a closet, open them up, and sit on the stage at one end of the gym. And usually those chairs were probably about 10 rows deep by the time they got done. They were getting close to the concession stand up there. You almost had trouble getting popcorn. It was crazy times in Pawpaw, and I don't know that the people there really understood all the attention. I mean, certainly, they wanted their hometown boy to do good, which he did. But I think it was, everybody coming from everywhere was a big surprise up there, and but it was fun times, and I think when it was all over, I think the coaching staff were relieved. Coaching staff was relieved. And I know Josh DeLauder was extremely relieved.
Yeah, and I know he's. I was reading the story you wrote 5 years ago. Again, we talked about this last year, but reading it again now, even just you kind of realize what he went through and what that was like for an 18-year-old with so much scrutiny, and the way that ended in Charleston, and really that's its own story and its own cautionary tale in its own right for not just kids, but for media members alike.
Yeah, there was, I think, just an incredible amount of pressure that was put on him that, it wasn't really fair. He just, small town boy does something good, and I don't know. And I think, if the internet had existed then, I think the pressure on him now would even be, greatly enhanced, because there would just be so much more attention. And you can look on Twitter and somebody does something, and the critics are out there, and it's just, it's like, or if you read forums and comment sections, it's like everybody wants to knock everybody down for something. Hey, enjoy the ride, enjoy what you're seeing. I think the young lady who scored the 16 three-pointers the other day, man, that would have been just magnificent to be there, just to see it happen, just kind of eye-popping and jaw-dropping. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
You may never do something like that again.
Exactly.
And,
and Rick, I hate to cut you short, but I mean, we 100% agree with you right there. We've got to take a break, though. Always a pleasure, Rick, and we definitely look forward to talking with you again next week, and I'll make sure that we get to talk with you right around the time we talk with Josh Lauder as well. But again, we've got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Special thanks tonight to all of our affiliates. You can listen on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, including Power 92 Radio, 92.3 FM, WYRCLP Spencer, 97.9 FM, WSPWLP Parkersburg, 91.5 FM, WRSG Middleburn, 106.7 FM, WHFI Linside, 101.9 FM, and 1290 AM WVOW Logan, 90.7 FM WFGH Fort Gay, 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM WQAZLP Edmond, Beckley, 101.7 FM WYAPLP Clay, and 88.1 FM WMUL in Huntington. You can check us out online, where you can view the online high-definition video at basketballnight.com. You can listen online, too, with any computer or mobile device. Just check it out at basketballnight.com and click on Listen Live. We want you to become part of our Twitter family, too. Follow us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, at @hoops_roundup. And we want you to become part of the show. You can help us throughout the week by sending us scores from your team's games, and we'll add that to our Hoops Roundup. Every night at midnight, we send a link out by Twitter, which has all of the scores for every team's game in West Virginia. Hoops Roundup. You can check that out on our website at basketballnight.com.
Celebrating high school basketball around the Mountain State, you're listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, James Collier, Coach Rick Marone, and Ryan Epling.
11:53 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. We've got just a few minutes to wrap things up. We'll get your poll question. We'll get your results from this past week's poll question as well. But first, one final check of the basketballnight.com scoreboard. Looking for scores, look no more. Visit basketballnight.com. Follow us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup. Final score, Cabell Midland beats St. Albans by 3. Brooke beats Indian Creek, Ohio by 20 tonight. Hedgesville, a 7-point winner over Spring Mills. Hurricane gets a free throw late to beat Huntington 66-65. Jefferson over Washington 84-53. Martinsburg beats Musselman tonight by 14. Morgantown, a 15-point win over Wheeling Park. Spring Valley picks up a 22-point win over Nitro 83-61. It was Wyoming East defeating Oak Hill 79-55. Sorry about that wrong score we sent out earlier. We've got that correct now. Parkersburg in double overtime beats Ripley by 3. Also tonight, George Washington, 67-29 winner over Point Pleasant. South Charleston, a 97-54 win over Winfield. Class AA tonight, Gilmer County out of Class A beats Braxton County 58-39. It was Nicholas County over Clay County 63-55. Chapmanville Regional defeats Mingo Central 43-40. It was Frankfort over Northern Garrett, Maryland by 3. Herbert Hoover, a 3-point winner tonight at Wayne. Also tonight, Man defeats Mountain View 75-57. It was Oak Glen over Toronto, Ohio 66-48. Polka, a 19-point winner at Sissonville. It was Parkersburg Catholic hitting a 3 with 6 seconds to go. They beat Ravenswood in the pit at Ravenswood 51-50. It was Work County over Ritchie County 59-47. It was Harrison Central Ohio over Weir 78-56. Class A scores, Calhoun County beats Wood County Christian by 11. Wheeling Central beats Charleston Catholic 50-44. It was Richwood over Fayetteville by 11. Greater Beckley Christian beats Tug Valley 47-45. 2 free throws late in that one for Isaiah Francis. Gilmer County, as I mentioned, over Braxton County. Also tonight, Union beats Harmon in the Hometown Invitational Division II Championship by 11. Paw Paw picks up a 73-45 win tonight over the 100 Hornets. Girls basketball action. Greater Beckley Christian over Tug Valley by 8. It was Fayetteville, a 5-point winner over Midland Trail. Mountain Ridge, Maryland beats Kaiser by 12. Calhoun County, a 5-point win over Hannon. You know, it's been 14 years since Hannon's Magnificent 7 boys team made the Class A state tournament. We'll talk about them later in the program in the next few weeks as well. Lincoln beats Bridgeport tonight by 2, and the Paw Paw girls beat Union 62-37. Also final scores, North Marion over Preston 76-52. Fairmont Senior 69, Robert C. Byrd 31, and St. Joe out of Huntington 71. Notre Dame 29. That's your basketballnight.com scoreboard. Final thing I wanted to mention before we get to the poll question. Earlier I mentioned that Hampshire had the Davis twins on the girls in 2001. That was correct. Susan Davis and Jennifer Davis. They are now in the Hampshire High School Hall of Fame. Our poll question last week was which region is the best regardless of classification, boys and girls. Region 1 getting 47% of the vote and the winner. What's our poll question tonight, Nicholas Collier?
All right, guys. Well, you know, Kentucky basketball has been using a one-class system for years with tremendous success. So we're asking, should West Virginia high school athletics switch to a one-class system? This poll will be live until 11:45 next Friday night.
That's on basketballnight.com. Kentucky, the only state that still does that. Indiana used to, the Mile Miracle, Hoosiers. They quit doing that, though, several years ago. And a lot of people weren't happy about it and still aren't. So for everyone involved here at Basketball Night in West Virginia, another week in the books. We'll be back with you next week, 9 to midnight. On basketballnight.com and on our great affiliates on radio stations throughout West Virginia. For the crew in the back that you never see, for Rick Marone, for Bill Cornwell, I'm Ryan Epling. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Tune in next Friday for the latest high school basketball action from across the Mountain State. Visit our website at basketballnight.com for our poll question, the basketballnight.com scoreboard, and much more. Until next time, have a great weekend, and thank you for listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. The preceding broadcast was a presentation of the Fast Break Sports Network. Copyright 2015.